Chapter 1398, A Sealed World, 3. Jian Chen felt extremely shocked after the story. He had never thought that the founders of the Qinhuang clan and Tyrant's Blade School would have such a story to them. However, what left him speechless was the fact that his great-grandfather and Gui Haidao had actually come down from the Saints' world after they were sucked into spatial cracks, which were caused by a battle between a few god kings, and had basically arrived at the Tianyuan continent out of pure luck. If it were not for the tunnel that had appeared at the right moment within the crack, his great-grandfather probably would have died there. A total of 10 people managed to survive and make it to the Tianyuan continent. We managed to escape the crack in space successfully, but we were all heavily injured. Not only were the wounds physical, but they affected our souls as well. Because we were just far too severely injured, coupled with the wounds to our souls caused by laws of the world, our cultivation level fell from the origin realm to Saint Emperor. Not all of the 10 people came from my group of adventurers, but we all became best friends. Several decades later, we made a full physical recovery, but the injuries to our souls lingered. Not only was it impossible for us to cultivate any further, but we also had to endure pain from the soul at all times. There was nothing we could do. Fortunately, one of us was a disciple of a large sect. He had been sucked into the disaster when he had left the sect on a journey. He took the risk of being branded as a traitor by his sect and taught us a secret method of reincarnation. Through this technique, the injuries of our souls caused by the laws could slowly be worn away. After mastering the secret technique and before entering reincarnation, we all agreed to create a clan of our own where we would leave the saint artifacts that our bodies had nurtured. We also sealed our memories into the weapons, and to prevent them from being eaten away by time, we purposefully left behind a secret technique that enabled our descendants to nurture the saint artifact with each generation. That was how the saint artifacts could still remain even today after losing their masters. We underwent thousands of rebirths over these years, being reborn and having to recultivate every life, all the way until this life. Only then were the wounds to our souls completely erased. Our saint artifacts sensed us as soon as we became saint kings and rushed over from far away, returning our memories to us and allowing us to return back to who we were. Jian Chen could not help but think back to when Gui Haidao had become a saint king. Back then, he was on a journey to the sea realm with Huang Wan and just happened to come across someone breaking through to Saint King. 7 colored rainbow clouds had descended and the person who had broken through just happened to be Gui Haidao. As he was undergoing his breakthrough, the Emperor armament of the Tyrant's Blade School shot over without anyone's control but allowed Gui Haidao to control the weapon as he wished. At the same time, he thought about how Yang Lai had caused the Emperor armament of the Protector Qinhuang clan to almost go on a rampage when he had first entered the forbidden grounds of the clan. He had almost caused the miniature world to collapse, and since he almost caused it to collapse, he had committed a heinous crime. Not only was he expelled from the clan, but his talent was also sealed up as well, preventing him from reaching sainthood for his entire life. By the look of things now, the ancestral weapon of the Qinhuang clan must have sensed that Qinhuang Zhu Yunkong was the reincarnation of its master and had fully recovered from the wounds his soul had obtained, which was why it had behaved abnormally then. However, Qinhuang Zhu Yunkong was weak back then, still extremely distant from Saint King, which was why the most crucial step did not happen, where the saint artifact would have taken him as a master again and released his memories. Jian Chen secretly felt fortunate when he thought about those events. Qinhuang Zhu Yunkong had remained a heaven saint master for 1,000 years and had nearly reached the end of his life. He had also suffered from the seal, experiencing torturous pain every moment he was awake. Only the heavenly Enchantress zither music could slightly ease his pain. If he had not encountered Jian Chen, Qinhuang Zhu Yunkong probably would have passed away from old age long ago. Jian Chen's hatred for Qinhuang Qingyun deepened when he thought about what had happened. They had almost killed their own ancestor. My dear great-grandson. Now that you mention it, my life was saved by you. If I had not met you in the final moments, I probably would have passed away and would not have awakened in this life. Yang Lai smiled at Jian Chen. He felt more and more affection for his great-grandson. Yang Lai, I cannot be more envious of you because of your impressive descendant, Gui Haidao smiled. He meant that statement from the bottom of his heart. At that moment, he yearned for the Tyrant's Blade School to produce a descendant as extraordinary as Jian Chen. Jian Chen smiled, feeling at ease. Great-grandfather, can I ask how you plan on punishing Qinhuang, Qinhuang and the others for treating you like that in the past? I didn't find any people from the Qing and Yuan branches in the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints either. Anger immediately flooded Yang Lai's face when he heard that. Don't mention those unfilial descendants. When I had just recovered my memories and stated my identity, those unfilial people actually tried to lay their hands on me despite being of a lower status. How dare they? Gui Haidao patted Yang Lai's shoulder and said, Yang Lai, the brutality of the Saints' world is far greater than the Tian Yuan continent. Can't you look past a few matters given that you've experienced the brutality of the Saints' world? It's enough. Let's forget about this unhappy past. Don't forget the main reason why we've called Jian Chen over this time. Gui Haidao then turned his eyes to Jian Chen with interest. Jian Chen, we've called you over this time because we have something important to ask you, aside from telling you about us. Please go ahead and ask, Senior. I will answer you with everything I know. Jian Chen clasped his hands at them. However, he felt uneasy inside. Yang Lai and Gui Haidao came from the Saints' world. He wondered if they knew about the secrets regarding the Azulate swords. Jian Chen, are you a Saint Emperor right now or have you reached the Origin realm? Gui Haidao asked. He was stern and even Yang Lai looked at Jian Chen seriously, as if they cared about the answer of the question a lot. Jian Chen was surprised. He had never thought that Gui Haidao would ask something like that. After a momentary pause, he said, I should still be a Saint Emperor, but because of the two weapons I use, the strength I can display is greater than what I personally possess. At the same time, I walk a different path of cultivation compared to the people of the Tian Yuan continent. I cultivate a power even more powerful than Saint Force, which is why I have the strength of someone from the Origin realm. Really? And I had thought that there was someone who could overcome the limits of the seal and reach the Origin realm. Looks like you haven't been able to do that either, Gui Haidao mumbled. He became rather depressed. Sigh, Yang Lai exhaled gently. He said, and I had thought that hope appeared, but it's just disappointment. Jian Chen stared at the two of them in some confusion. He questioned, Seniors, what are you referring to by this sealed world? And what are you hoping for? Gui Haidao stared at the sky. His eyes were deep, but they were also filled with helplessness. He said, Jian Chen, you may not know this, but this world is actually sealed. An extremely powerful seal exists in outer space, preventing people from reaching the Origin realm. As long as the seal is in place, this world will never be able to give birth to Origin realm experts. Chapter 1399, Erased History. Back when the 10 of us came to this world, the seal had already existed for countless years. It's been so many years since and the seal still remains. It's stopping all the people of this world from reaching the Origin realm. I wonder who cast it down and what their intentions were. It's because of this seal that Gui Haidao and I remain at the peak of Saint Emperor and are unable to reach the Origin realm, explained Yang Lai helplessly. Jian Chen became filled with even more doubt. He said, since you say that no one can reach the Origin realm in this world, why did the 4 champions appear in ancient times, and why has an Origin realm expert appeared recently in the tungsten alloy mine near Flame City? There were no Origin realm experts before we had started our reincarnations. We only learned about the 4 champions from the ancient times after reincarnating. We don't know the exact details regarding the 4 of them either. However, we once visited our clans after regaining our memories to search through their archives and to look into everything that happened in ancient times. Other than the war god Aojians among the 4 champions, there were no records regarding the winged tiger god, Mo Tianyun, or the sea goddess at all. According to the ancient records, Mo Tianyun, the winged tiger god, and the sea goddess seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. There were no records of their growth at all. They just appeared with strength at the Origin realm, Yang Lai said with heavy emotions. Maybe the 3 of them aren't from this world either and came from a higher world as well? Jian Chen wondered in surprise. However, he had already confirmed that Mo Tianyun came from another world. He did not know much about the winged tiger god from ancient times. That's not very possible, Gui Haidao shook his head. After a moment of silence, he said, in this sealed world, there are only 3 ways for an origin realm expert to appear. The first way would be to be stronger than the person who had initially cast down the seal. Then you would be able to directly ignore its existence. The second way would be to be born as a spirit of the world. These spirits possess the strength of the origin realm as soon as they are born. 2 have already appeared, one from Mercenary City and the other being the golden-clothed boy who follows you around. The third way includes being in existence like the war god of the 100 races. The war god is born from the world and is extremely powerful. It is a supreme existence, a being known as the god race in the saints' world. The sea may be powerful, but it is not enough to restrict it. The first possibility can be ignored, and the third possibility is not very likely either because there are just far too few races that are born from the world like the war god. As a result, the second possibility is the most likely one. Why would a person plant a seal to stop people from reaching the origin realm? Jian Chen mumbled. He could not understand the reasoning no matter how hard he tried. He already had a vague idea of who the person was. To him, there was no other person powerful enough other than the mysterious protector Shui of the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. The real reason why a mysterious expert would have planted the seal would probably have been to stop people from entering the saints' world. When we first arrived here, we discovered some traces from an era even more ancient than the one we came from. We are certain that there were a few origin realm experts in that era, but they all vanished for some reason. When we discovered these traces, we had a person who had come from a big sect use a secret technique to view the origins of the traces. He searched through time and discovered an extremely shocking piece of news in the end. All the origin realm experts from the even more ancient era had all died due to some reason, but it was not just them. Many saint emperors had died as well. Most of these traces had been secretly erased by someone through a great technique, which is why no news has surfaced. Gui Haidao became extremely stern. This piece of news was extremely horrible for them because they did not know whether the disaster from the ancient era would happen in this era as well. Jian Chen was astounded. The news was just far too shocking. He never would have thought that the world had experienced such a cataclysm before the protector clans existed. It made him shiver inside. Could it be done by her? Jian Chen could not help but think of the protector Shui from the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. Her origins were a mystery and she was at least an origin realm expert, possibly even more than that. At the same time, no one knew just when the Ice Goddess Hall had appeared on the icy tundra to the north. Great-grandfather, Senior, do you know about the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall? Jian Chen hesitated before making up his mind to ask his seniors. After all, the two of them knew very much already. Yang Lai and Gui Haidao both shifted their gazes to the depths of the North Sea. They were currently at the northernmost point of the Tianyuan continent. Close ahead was the Northern Sea, and deep within the sea lay the icy tundra where the Ice Goddess Hall stood. Yang Lai and Gui Haidao gazed deeply into the furthest reaches of the sea and remained silent. Only a long while later did Yang Lai slowly say, "We knew about the existence of the mysteries in the icy tundra back then. The 10 of us once tried to explore that place, but we were unable to get very far. The place was terrifyingly cold, where even in our peak condition, we would have still ended up as ice statues from the cold. As a result, we left the matter be and never set foot there again. However, the icy tundra had already been labeled as a forbidden zone by us. No one knows the secrets inside. Only when we woke up in this life did we learn the secrets. There is actually an extremely mysterious divine hall hidden there. And while we were reincarnating, the mysterious expert had moved once more. This time, he had gone even more overboard, actually sealing up the origin energy into the very depths of the universe, causing the origin energy on the Tianyuan continent to become thinner and thinner before disappearing altogether. He even disrupted the laws of the world, making breakthroughs even more difficult for people. There's almost no hope of becoming a saint emperor either, Gui Haidao said unhappily. He felt both fear and hatred for this mysterious expert. Chapter 1400, Mastermind. Jian Chen secretly snickered inside. He did not know who it was who had cast down the seal preventing Saint Emperors from reaching the Origin realm, but he knew what was sealing the Origin energy up in the depths of the universe. It was definitely not a mysterious expert trying to prevent people from reaching Saint Emperor. This lack of Origin energy was caused by the Qinhuang Saint Rock. The rock had fallen from outer space and onto Dragon Island, where it was discovered by Mo Tianyun, who moved it into outer space using his great abilities. He created a powerful seal around the rock to seal and lock it in place. However, the rock originated from the birth of the universe and was condensed from the yin and yang qi from chaotic force. Its power was evident, so even after being sealed by Mo Tianyun, it still managed to disturb the laws of the world and absorb the Origin energy present. Jianchen guessed that it was because Gui Haidao and Yang Lai were not powerful enough, or maybe Mo Tianyun's seal was just too powerful, which was why they could not see within the seal and understand the truth. This was why they had connected it with the mysterious expert who had ended the ancient era. However, they still gained Jianchen's admiration for being able to reach such a conclusion. At the very least, the two of them could sense the location of where the Qinhuang Saint Rock had been sealed within the depths of the cosmos. He was unable to look that far even if he used all his strength. Looks like I still lack in a lot of areas when compared to true Origin realm experts, even though I have the battle prowess of an expert from the Origin realm, Jianshen sighed inside. He had gained an even clearer understanding of the differences between him and true Origin realm experts like Gui Haidao and Yang Lai. Even though Gui Haidao and Yang Lai had not recovered their strength, they had already exceeded him by far too much in certain aspects. Suddenly, Yang Lai arrived before Jianshen in a single step. He stared at him sternly and asked, "Great-grandson, I heard that you visited the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall in the past and saw that girl who was taken there. Is that true?" "That has indeed happened before. Back then, I visited there with Senior Roy Jean, Hong Lian, and He Yu," Jianshen replied with the truth. "Then tell me everything you know." The Arctic Ice Goddess Hall can be described as the most mysterious organization in this world. "I suspect that the mysterious expert who sealed up this world is connected to them," said Yang Lai. He was extremely stern. As a result, Jianshen told him about everything he knew regarding the Ice Goddess Hall without holding back at all. However, he was not sure how strong Protector Shui was. She was definitely an Origin realm expert at the very least. A gleam of light flashed through Yang Lai's eyes. He said with a heavy voice, "As I had suspected. The mysterious Ice Goddess Hall really does have such an expert." Gui Haidao joined in on the conversation. "This world has already been sealed for at least 1,000,000 years, making it impossible to break through to the Origin realm. Origin realm experts only have a lifespan of 100,000 years, so it's impossible for this Protector Shui to have broken through in the last 100,000 years. Even if we go one step back and even if Protector Shui comes from the ancient era and is still alive now because she is the same as us, undergoing countless reincarnations, it would be impossible for her to reach the Origin realm in this life." An idea crossed Jianchen's head when he thought up to that point. He mumbled, "If that's the case, there are only two possibilities regarding Protector Shui's identity. The first would be that she's similar to Xiao Jin and Xiao Ling, which would make her a natural spirit. The second possibility would be that she is the mysterious expert who sealed up this world as well as the mastermind who erased the past." Yang Lai finished off Jianchen's sentence. His complexion was horrible right now. Jianshen sucked in a deep breath and said, "If it really is the second possibility, isn't this Protector Shui just far too powerful? She's actually been able to survive since ancient times and even killed off many experts in ancient times. She's definitely committed endless slaughter, so why hasn't she suffered the punishment of celestial decay? If the second possibility is true, Protector Shui's strength would have already surpassed the Origin realm and reached godhood. Godhood allows people to break free from the restraints of the world and survive along with the world. It is known as eternal life, so obviously celestial decay won't impact her. And from the power and complexity of the seal that was set down, Protector Shui doesn't just seem to have reached godhood. She seems to belong to the higher boundaries of that realm of cultivation," said Gui Haidao. The gaze he sent toward the depths of the northern sea became laced with fear. Godhood was a dreamlike cultivation realm to them. All the hard work and effort they had put in back in the saints' world was all for reaching godhood, a supreme level of cultivation. This was because the concept of a lifespan still existed within the origin realm. Even those at reciprocity could not change their final lifespan, but once they broke through to godhood, they would have eternal life. However, an extremely large division existed between the two realms of cultivation. The difference was equivalent to mortals and saint emperors on the Tianyuan continent. Despite it only requiring a single step to overcome, it was just far too difficult to take this step. If the seal is not released, we will remain at our current level of cultivation forever, and we will never be able to reach the origin realm. In 10,000 years, we will pass away. We do have the reincarnation method, but it requires origin energy to cast. Although we've stored some origin energy in our saint artifacts, there's not much left now, Yang Lai sighed gently. His eyebrows were furrowed with some worry. Regaining their memories only allowed them to regain their former cultivation. They basically knew all the abilities of origin realm experts, except that their strength would only remain at the peak of Saint Emperor and would not advance any further. If they had not recovered their memories, they could continue undergoing rebirths, but once they reawakened, the reincarnations would stop as well. Great-grandfather, senior, don't worry. As long as I'm here, this seal will be destroyed sooner or later because I walk a different path of cultivation. The seal can stop everyone in the world but me, Jian Shen firmly informed them. His voice was filled with confidence. He was indeed confident, because he cultivated chaotic force. He did not require origin energy to increase his strength, nor did he require the mysteries of the world for his breakthroughs. As long as there was enough energy present, he could smoothly pass through the first 6 layers of the chaotic body. He was currently at the 4th layer and possessed the power to fight origin realm experts. If he reached the 5th or 6th layer, just what level of strength would he possess? Jian Shen still had a large quantity of immortal tier heavenly resources and violet cloud peaches in his space ring. As long as he had enough time, reaching the 5th and then the 6th layer would not be a problem. Coupled with his comprehension tea, comprehending the way of the sword would be a piece of cake for him. He believed that the seal would not be able to stop him if he continued to increase his strength. Once I reach the 6th layer of the chaotic body and make some breakthroughs on the way of the sword, I think I'll be able to fight godhood experts. There's no need to reach sword spirit, just the great perfection of sword origin will be enough, Jian Shen thought inside and swelled with confidence. He was tempted to break through and reach the 6th layer sooner. However, he knew that breaking through was impossible right now. Even with his large quantities of heavenly resources, reaching the 5th and then the 6th layer would require quite a lot of time. He had already consumed a violet cloud peach, so he needed to wait 100 years before consuming a second one. It was also impossible for him to endlessly consume his heavenly resources. If he ate too many in a short period of time, his body would develop a resistance to their medicinal properties, causing their effects to greatly decrease or become altogether useless. The energy crystals of Class 9 Qinhuang beasts did not have any evident effects on him now either. He was better off giving them to the people around him rather than wasting them on himself. Chapter 1401. Another Saint Emperor Jian Shen left by himself after bidding farewell to Yang Lai and Gui Haidao. He shot through the sky as a stream of light on the Ziying sword. Jian Shen could not help but think through the information he had learned from Yang Lai and Gui Haidao on the way back. He had never thought that there would have been an ancient era even before the ancient times, an era erased from history, an era where many saint emperors and origin realm experts were slain mercilessly. Jian Shen found it rather chilling. And that seal in outer space, which prevented all saint emperors from reaching the origin realm, was surrounded in mysteries as well. He did not know who the mysterious expert was. Could it be like what he had guessed, that the mysteries expert was Protector Shui of the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall? If that was the case, why did she place the seal there? Was it because she was seeking refuge? Or was she guarding some great treasure? Or were there any other intentions? And why were the winged tiger god from the ancient times and the sea goddess able to ignore the seal and reach the origin realm? Were they really natural spirits like Yang Lai and Gui Haidao had guessed? If that really was the case, then no one could have reached the Origin realm from their own efforts since ancient times, aside from the war god Aojians. I agreed with my sister before that I'd visit her a year later in the Ice Goddess Hall. It's already been a year, but I still haven't followed up on my end of the promise. I'll go pay a visit as soon as I deal with the urgent matters at hand. Let's see if I can discover anything. And Senior Roy Jean, Hong Lian, and Hey, you are still trapped in the north. I must find some way to free them this time I go, Jian Chen thought to himself. The three of them had been trapped in the Ice Goddess Hall because of him. If he did not free them, he would end up riddled with guilt, unable to forgive himself. Jian Chen did not return to Flame City and, instead, went to the Qinhuang clan in Lore City. Jian Chen's name had spread across the continent ever since the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints. All the experts claimed him to be the reincarnation of Mo Tianyun. He had taken up the position as the greatest human expert in some sense. His return immediately threw Lore City into a mess. Virtually all the people in the city surged in the direction of the Qinhuang clan. Countless people wanted to catch a glimpse of the greatest human expert's glory. Just how great was the status as the greatest human expert? Even Saint Kings did not have the right to see him on ordinary days, so to the people of Lore City who dwelled on the lowest levels of the Tianyuan continent, he was like a god. Many people were willing to die an early death just to catch a glimpse of him. The city lord of Lore City immediately reacted. He mobilized all the guards and troops in the city to ensure peace, labeling the area 10 kilometers around the Qinhuang clan as a forbidden zone. At the same time, all the guards of the clan were mobilized, forming a second wall around the clan. At the same time, this matter reached the ears of the king very soon. The king immediately put down all the matters at hand and quickly flew out of the imperial palace with the assistance of a heaven saint master. Besides him, all the monarchs in the neighboring kingdoms had given up their luxurious carriages and directly requested their heaven saint masters to carry them through the air with rich gifts. They made their way to Lore City as quickly as they could. Not only had Jian Chen's arrival at the Qinhuang clan alert everyone in the surroundings, but it had also thrown the Qinhuang clan into a mess as well. All the Zhu branch saint rulers who stayed in the back courtyards of the clan lowered their statuses and came to welcome him. Their leaders, to no surprise, were Qinhuang Zhu Xiao, Qinhuang Zhu Yun Xiao, and Qinhuang Zhu Yayan. The patriarch of the clan, Qinhuang Ba, immediately ordered people to prepare a large banquet. He invited his good friends as the whole clan began to celebrate. At the same time, he designated the day as a yearly celebration for the clan. After that, when the king of the Jessan kingdom arrived, he immediately passed on orders to designate the day as a national holiday as well. This day was the first time the young master of the Qinhuang clan had returned home after becoming the greatest human expert. This day held significant importance for both the kingdom and the clan. Jian Chen did not appear a lot during the celebrations. He left his parents and Uncle Cheng to handle everything. He secretly passed on messages to search for Huang Tianba, Ong Ling, and so on, requesting them to return to the Qinhuang clan immediately. At the same time, he got others to contact Jetta Tai, who had already returned to his own clan, and the imperial protectors of the Qinhuang kingdom. The celebrations of the clan lasted for 7 whole days. Within that period of time, the people who had come to visit included quite a few saint rulers, saint kings, and even the grand elder of Mercenary City had come. The entire kingdom had celebrated. This was the first time in history that the Jessan kingdom had ever had such a lively and grand celebration. 7 days later, all the guests left one by one. Huang Tianba, Ong Ling, and Jetta Tai had all arrived in the Qinhuang clan while the 4 imperial protectors of the Qinhuang kingdom had hurried over from Flame City as soon as they received the news. They had been waiting in the Qinhuang clan for quite some time now. The next day, Jian Chen, Qinhuang Ba, Uncle Cheng, the king, Huang Tianba, Ong Ling, Jetta Tai, the 4 imperial protectors from the Qinhuang kingdom, and every single person of the Zhu branch left the city and arrived in a nearby forest. The disaster of the continent was still not over yet. The threat of the world of Forsaken Saints still lingered, and next time, they would certainly send far more than just 500 Saint Emperors once the tunnel stabilized. There would definitely be Origin realm experts present as well. As a result, Jian Shen needed to use the resources he had during this upcoming period of time to raise the overall power of the Tianyuan continent. He needed to prepare for the next time the foreign world invaded. He had obtained a large amount of heavenly resources from the Qinhuang microcosm, but there was not enough to be considered an endless amount. He needed to raise the strength of the people around him first, even if he had to waste a little before considering other people. Although the people around him would not all take part in the battle against the foreign world, the next battle would definitely be even more intense. Without enough strength, just the shockwaves from the fight would be enough to claim their lives. As a result, Jian Shen was not expecting them to make any major contributions to the upcoming battle by raising their strength right now. He only hoped for them to survive. Everyone sat on the floor within the forest. Jian Shen used the highest grade comprehension tea and violet cloud peaches he had on him to raise their strength. The people present were either his family, friends, or someone who had helped him in the past. As a result, he did not hold back at all, sharing the best he had with them. Among them, the king of the Jesson kingdom was the weakest. He was only an Earth Saint Master, but the violet cloud peaches did not have any restrictions. Even ordinary people could consume them. 2 days later, the rainbow clouds descended. Huang Tianba and Yang Ling broke through first. One was a peak 9th heavenly layer saint ruler and the other was a peak 6th cycle heaven saint master, so they were extremely close to the next realm of cultivation. As a result, they both broke through to Saint King and Saint Ruler after consuming the immortal peaches and the tea. On the third day, an extremely tremendous pressure suddenly appeared. It caused the surrounding space to tremble and almost collapse while the energy of the world began to churn. In the sky, a layer of 9-colored clouds quickly appeared. They glowed with an extremely bright light as they enveloped the entire continent. Qinhuang Zhu Xiao had broken through the barrier of Saint King and had become a Saint Emperor. Although the origin energy in the current world had vanished and the laws of the world were a mess due to the Yinyang Saint Rock, it did not mean that reaching Saint Emperor was impossible, just extremely difficult. Qinhuang Zhu Xiao was already a Saint King at great perfection and only required a single step to reach Saint Emperor. The 5th grade peaches and tea just happened to provide him with enough to overcome these two problems, allowing him to break through successfully in just 3 short days. Chapter 1402, Founding Ancestor of the Pure Heart Pavilion, 1. Someone else had become a Saint Emperor on the Tianyuan continent after Tianjin and Houston, which immediately caused a great disturbance. Many Saint Kings were attracted over once again, despite the long distance. Soon, several dozen human Saint Kings had gathered. All of them hovered high in the sky as they watched from afar. Eventually even some Saint Kings from the sea race, the magical beasts, and the 100 races had come. What a dense gathering of energy. This pure energy of the world is extremely similar to the phenomenon that occurred near Flame City a few days ago. If I've guessed correctly, Sovereign Jian Shen should be here, a human expert sighed in surprise. This place may be obscured by the mist-like energy of the world, but what's happening inside still can't escape my senses. I can clearly feel that there's more than one person cultivating in there. Other than the one who has just become a Saint Emperor, there's many other presences, said a blue-robed old man. He was a member of the sea race. He was enveloped by a faint layer of blue light, blocking out the sunlight. How is it Sovereign Jian Shen again? Just how does Sovereign Jian Shen get them to break through so easily? Does he have some heaven-defying treasure? A magical beast said with some obvious envy. His cultivation to Saint King could be described as arduous, yet now, any person who had ties with Jian Shen could skip several thousand years' worth of cultivation in just a few days. A few people felt envious because of this. However, even if he had guessed that Jian Shen really did possess some great treasure, he would never fancy any ill thoughts. Jian Shen was now a supreme expert. He was an existence that could look down on all of them. He was no longer the Saint King from before. The people who follow Jian Shen sure are blessed, a lot of people thought. Jian Shen had allowed people to become Saint Kings and Saint Emperors time and time again. It left them green with envy and made them wish that they were in the mist instead. Several days later, the forest calmed down. Not only had Qinhuang Zhu Xiao become a Saint Emperor, but Qinhuang Zhu Yunxiao had successfully broken through as well. Among the 3 Saint Kings of the Zhu branch, only Qinhuang Zhu Yayan remained a Saint King, but she had gone from the first heavenly layer to great perfection. She was close to becoming a Saint Emperor as well. Besides her, Huang Tianba also reached the great perfection of Saint King, attaining a similar level to Qinhuang Zhu Yayan. Huang Tianba was ravished with joy. His excitement had already peaked. Yang Ling, the guard with ordinary talent who had once protected Jian Shen in the City of God, had benefited greatly as well. Not only had his aptitude for cultivation increased, but he had finally smashed through the bottleneck he had been stuck at for many years, reaching his dream level of cultivation, Saint Ruler. He did not stop there either. His strength skyrocketed with the help of the peach and tea, making another major breakthrough in the end. He reached Saint King and stopped at the 2nd heavenly layer. The 4 imperial protectors of the Qinhuang kingdom had all become Saint Kings as well, ranging from the 5th heavenly layer to the 8th heavenly layer. I thank Sovereign Jian Shen for your gift. Our wish of many years has finally become true, and we've all reached an unimaginable level of cultivation. The 4 imperial protectors gratefully bowed to Jian Shen. Their breakthroughs were significant to the Qinhuang kingdom. After the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints, the strength of the 3 great empires had fallen. They had lost their strongest experts. The Qinhuang kingdom had originally belonged to the Holy Empire as subsidiaries, but with their breakthroughs, the Qinhuang kingdom had suddenly become the strongest kingdom on the continent. Although the kingdom's heritage and overall power was nowhere close to the 3 empires that had existed for countless years, they were unable to match up to the Qinhuang kingdom in terms of Saint Kings. Changyang Ba, Uncle Chang, and the Saint rulers from the Zhu branch all became Saint Kings as well. Only the king of the Jessen kingdom fell behind. He had reached the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler in the end. All the Saint rulers of the Zhu branch broke into tears. They thanked Jian Shen with runny noses. They were tempted to kneel down in gratitude. The disturbance from this group breakthrough was not as great as the one in Flame City, but it still gave birth to 2 Saint Emperors and almost 20 Saint Kings. It made all the Saint Kings who had come to watch green with envy. A portion of the people had even become hot-headed inside. They wanted to kneel down before Jian Shen and plead, begging him for a chance to become greater. They were all Saint Kings and had been stuck like that for many years now. Becoming a Saint Emperor possessed a fatal attraction to them. There were plenty of them who had reached the later stages of their lives. They did not have much time left. The only way for them to continue living was to become a Saint Emperor. Suddenly, Jian Shen's eyes narrowed. He turned his head to one direction. The space there distorted and a golden giant appeared out of nowhere. To no surprise, that giant was Tai Ta. Tai Ta did not use a space gate and had instead arrived using one of his innate secret techniques. He had suddenly appeared before Jian Shen by crossing a vast distance, like he had teleported. The war god of the 100 races. Tai Ta's arrival immediately caused the experts in the surroundings to cry out. Their eyes were filled with fear and dread, with the magical beasts affected the most. They responded even more violently. Jian Shen discovered quite a difference in Tai Ta this time. It was a change in presence. If Tai Ta had been a country bumpkin before, the current Tai Ta was like a ruler. He possessed a certain prestige. Jian Shen, can you give me some? I want to help out the 100 races as well, Tai Ta asked rather awkwardly. Jian Shen obviously knew what Tai Ta wanted. He chuckled, Tai Ta, I had planned on delivering some to you a few days later. I didn't think you'd come personally. Jian Shen took out a space ring and tossed it to Tai Ta without any hesitation. The space ring was filled with over 100 violet cloud peaches, 10 pieces of 5th grade comprehension tea leaves, and several dozen pieces of 1st grade comprehension tea leaves. There was even a lot of divine water of the world and water from the springs of life for making tea. It possessed everything he needed. Of course, not all the violet cloud peaches in there were of the 5th grade. Jian Shen had only found 3 5th grade violet immortal peach trees in the Qinhuang microcosm in total. The others were all of lower grades. He had used up over 100 5th grade violet cloud peaches within the past few days, almost half of everything he had. As a result, only a tenth of all the peaches he had given Tai Ta were of the 5th grade. The rest were either of the 3rd or 4th grades. Jian Shen had obtained even fewer pieces of comprehension tea leaves. When he had made tea to increase the strength of this group, he had only used 4 or 5 pieces together. Tai Ta took the space ring. He knew how to prepare the items inside, so he did not ask any questions. Before he left, Tai Ta said to Jian Shen, "I've gone to the War God Hall. It's a very special place and will be extremely beneficial for me. I cultivate several times faster than usual in there, and it can help me comprehend the mysteries of war." Jian Shen, the magical beasts have a Beast God Hall as well. I wonder if it has the same effects as the War God Hall, but according to what I know, it's not a simple divine hall. You should take Xiao by there when you have the time. I will, Jian Shen responded. He had heard that the 99th floor of the Beast God Hall possessed the legacy of the previous winged tiger god, and only those with the same bloodline could enter it. All he could do back then was sigh in wonder, since he had lacked the ability to go there. In the miniature world of the Pure Heart Pavilion, a tall altar stood in the forbidden grounds. A snow-white duster silently lay on the altar. It gave off a tremendous presence. This was the ancestral weapon of the Pure Heart Pavilion. It had always been stored there, yet today, the duster suddenly began to emit a hazy white light despite not making any abnormal movements over the past 1,000,000 years. The next moment, the light suddenly became extremely intense, illuminating the surroundings. A terrifying ripple of energy shot from it, causing the surrounding space and the miniature world to tremble. Swish! Afterward, the jade-white duster shot off, disappearing into the miniature world. The pavilion master, who was currently tending to her wounds, suddenly changed in expression within a secret room. She immediately charged out and chased after the duster with lightning-like speed. Behind her, 2 more Saint Kings surged over from different directions, pursuing the duster with the pavilion master. Qinhuang, who was wearing simple robes when he emerged from the divine hall of the Pure Heart Pavilion. He stared in the direction the duster had disappeared off to. The sun, moon, and stars seemed to rotate in his eyes. "I think I see glory. I think I see celebration, and prosperous era." Qinhuang, who mumbled a while later. Chapter 1403, Founding Ancestor of the Pure Heart Pavilion. 2. 7-colored rainbow clouds loomed over an ancient forest on the Tianyuan continent. They illuminated the surroundings with 7 colors, spanning 1,000,000 kilometers. The clouds represented someone breaking through from Saint Ruler to Saint King and were sensed by many people. It definitely would have been an extremely great matter for someone to become a Saint King in the past, and would have attracted many experts on the continent to watch. However, after 9-colored rainbow clouds had appeared time and time again and had enveloped the entire continent, various experts, and even some ordinary people had grown used to the clouds. They had become a common occurrence. As a result, the appearance of the clouds did not attract too much attention. This was because this single layer of rainbow clouds seemed just far too insignificant compared to the several dozen layers of rainbow clouds, or even the 9-colored rainbow clouds that had appeared. A person currently sat within a cave deep within a forest. Energy pulsed around him, causing the cave to tremble and quite a few rocks to come loose. He was the person undergoing the breakthrough. He had just overcome the bottleneck at the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler and successfully became a Saint King. However, before the surroundings could stabilize right after he had broken through, a streak of light shot over from the distance at an unbelievable speed. It stopped above the cave in the end and let out a dazzling but gentle white light. Terrifying pulses of energy emanated from it, filling the entire forest and causing the space there to tremble. At that moment, the forest, which was constantly filled with the roars of beasts, fell silent. Everything descended into a deathly silence. Only now was the item that had been obscured by white light visible. It was actually a jade-white duster. The duster was not actually made from white jade. It only seemed like it was. The jade-white duster hung in the air while its gentle white light filled the surroundings. The world seemed to have become much brighter. After arriving, a powerful energy surged out of the duster and headed down toward the ground. The young man, who only seemed to be in his 30s, remained seated beneath the duster before slowly floating into the air. He was the person who had just broken through. What was unbelievable was that the young man's cave was clearly constructed from rock. A thick stone slab isolated him from the sun, yet he seemed like he had fused with the surrounding rock right now. Not only had he left no mark on the rocks, but he seemed to have fused with them, moving freely through them. The young man floated beneath the jade-white duster. Suddenly, the duster erupted with an extremely powerful energy, which surrounded the young man, though it brought him no harm. From afar, the young man seemed to be encased in a huge cocoon. Soon, a space gate ripped open several dozen kilometers away. The pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion emerged there along with the other Saint Kings. They had reached that location after tailing the Emperor armament. However, when they all saw their ancestral weapon, they all became stunned. "Pavilion master, what is happening?" one of the Saint Kings asked in shock. The pavilion master shook her head. Her eyes were fixated on the jade-white duster. None of them could answer that question. Their ancient archives didn't possess any record of the Emperor armament breaking free from their control. The three of them did not act recklessly. Instead, they waited silently in the distance, because an invisible force from the jade-white duster was currently preventing them from advancing any further. The jade-white duster used its own energy to lock up an entire region of space, and even Saint Emperors would find it difficult to break. The wait lasted several days, and only after those several days did the energy from the duster slowly disperse. The young man guarded by the jade-white duster slowly opened his eyes as well. At that moment, the world seemed to darken slightly. The pavilion master and two other Saint Kings felt dumbfounded. Shock filled their faces. They felt like they had seen a vast universe in the eyes of the young man. They could not help but be absorbed by it, almost losing themselves. The three of them immediately felt astounded. The person before them had just reached Saint King. He was not as powerful as them, but his eyes made them feel like he was much stronger than them. This filled them with disbelief. At the same time up north, on the same mountain as before, Gui Hai Dao and Yang Lai were staring deep into the sea. However, at that moment, their faces changed, and they suddenly turned in the direction of the duster. An odd light filled their eyes, and in a single movement, the two of them vanished. The pavilion master appeared otherworldly and divine as always. She clasped her hands gracefully and smiled. "From today on, the Qinhuang continent has gained another Saint King. This is a joyous occasion. May I ask what your name is?" The young man said nothing. He did not even glance at the three people from the Pure Heart Pavilion and instead grabbed the jade-white duster in the air in a single motion. He rubbed it gently in his hands as reminiscence filled his eyes. The jade-white duster was extremely gentle. Despite the unbelievably powerful energy hidden within it, it seemed just like a little lamb right now. The eyes of the three Saint Kings almost popped out of their heads. The jade-white duster had always been enshrined in the forbidden grounds of the Pure Heart Pavilion. People visited it frequently. It was basically a consecrated object of the sect. It was extremely powerful, yet it was currently being wielded by him. The three of them found this difficult to accept. At the same time, the jade-white duster possessed endless might. On any random day, even if they just wanted to use it a little, they needed supreme strength combined with secret techniques to wield it. Yet, the weapon was easily wielded by someone who was not even part of the Pure Heart Pavilion in such an easier manner. Moreover, he wasn't suffering from a backlash either. This shocked them greatly. "The Wolf King of Greed, Feng Xiao, was once my name, but from now on, he does not exist on the Qinhuang continent. There is only Feng Xiao." The young man suddenly replied. He spoke very gently, but his voice seemed to be filled with an endless charm. "Sir Feng Xiao, please return the ancestral weapon of our Pure Heart Pavilion," the pavilion master calmly requested. She could not stand how the consecrated item of her sect was being tarnished by an outsider's hands. After all, it was their ancestral weapon that they had kept enshrined for many years. Feng Xiao straightened his back while his entire presence suddenly changed. It had become divine. At that moment, he became dignified and awe-inspiring, as if he had transcended the world and stood above all life. I am your founding ancestor. Feng Xiaotian sternly responded. His voice was filled with an undeniable prestige. Sir, that's not a joke you can make, a Saint King replied with a heavy voice. He seemed slightly angered that someone would claim that. At this moment, a space gate suddenly ripped open. Gui Haidao and Yang Lai arrived together. When they saw Feng Xiaotian, they both broke into laughter. Feng Xiaotian, I never thought that you'd awaken after the two of us. So much for being a disciple of a large sect. A strange light appeared in Feng Xiaotian's eyes. He said, the two of you have really surpassed my expectations, for the two of you awakened before me. Chapter 1404, Meeting Qing Xiao again. Yang Lai and Gui Haidao did not purposefully conceal their presences, so the three Saint Kings from the Pure Heart Pavilion could sense them clearly, which immediately took them by surprise. To their senses, Yang Lai and Gui Haidao's presences were as vast as the sea. They were boundless, making them impossible to fathom. The Path Lord of Carnal Desires and the three Saint Emperors of the Beast God continent could not make them feel this way. Saint Emperors. Similar thoughts crossed the heads of the three Saint Kings from the Pure Heart Pavilion. Not only had they determined that Yang Lai and Gui Haidao were Saint Emperors, but they had also noticed that they were even more powerful than the three Saint Emperors of the Beast God continent and the Path Lord of Carnal Desires. However, the Saint Kings soon became filled with suspicion, because the birth of a Saint Emperor on the Tianyuan continent was accompanied by 9-colored rainbow clouds. Even experts far from the continent would still be able to sense them. However, they knew all of the Saint Emperors that had recently appeared on the Tianyuan continent. They knew every expert that had broken through. The three of them were completely clueless as to when Yang Lai and Gui Haidao had become Saint Emperors. They were just far too abnormal. The Pavilion Master looked at Yang Lai. She had seen Changyang Zhu Yunkong in the past before and actually discovered that this person and Changyang Zhu Yunkong looked exactly the same. The only difference was the presence they radiated, which made them seem like two different people. Feng Xiaotian, the seal still exists. You come from a large clan, so the abilities you know are far greater than anything we can fathom. Do you have any ideas on how to deal with it? Gui Haidao asked. Feng Xiaotian immediately became stern. He looked into the depths of outer space and helplessly shook his head. Even you are helpless against it. Looks like we can only place our hopes on my great-grandson, Yang Lai gently sighed. Great-grandson? Feng Xiaotian was surprised. He looked at Yang Lai, confused. Yang Lai's face became filled with obvious pride as soon as he mentioned his great-grandson. He said, Feng Xiaotian, you probably don't know that I have a descendant with extremely impressive talent. Even in the saints' world, his talent would rank at the very top. In less than 100 years, he has cultivated to a level of strength no weaker than the origin realm. I have to say that Jian Chen's talent really is extremely terrifying. He walks a path that is different than the hard-beaten trail, yet he still demonstrates such speeds, and he doesn't seem to need origin energy to reach the origin realm, so he won't be restricted by this formation. Jian Chen might really be our only hope right now, Gui Haidao praised as well. He felt admiration from the bottom of his heart toward Jian Chen. An odd expression appeared on Feng Xiaotian's face. Jian Chen? The captain of the Flame Mercenaries? Correct. My great-grandson is indeed the captain of the Flame Mercenaries. Feng Xiaotian, I never thought that my great-grandson would be so well known that even you would have heard of him, chucked Yang Lai. Feng Xiaotian's expression immediately became odd. He bitterly smiled. Heard of? I've even seen him in person. What? What's this all about? Yang Lai and Gui Haidao were overcome with surprise. I have once met your great-grandson outside of Flame City. If it were not for the fact that someone begged for mercy, this life would have been taken by your great-grandson. Feng Xiaotian forced a smile. Yang Lai and Gui Haidao were surprised by his words. They looked at one another and shock filled their eyes. They never would have thought that Feng Xiaotian had actually come into conflict with Jian Chen in the past. However, Feng Xiaotian's eyes suddenly narrowed before the two of them could say anything else. He said, speaking of which, that Qinhuang who seems to have entered the realm of great liberation. Feng Xiaotian arrived before the three saint kings of the Pure Heart Pavilion and urgently asked, "You should know about the realm of great liberation. Have you accepted Qinhuang who as a disciple of the Pure Heart Pavilion?" Feng Xiaotian's voice was filled with a sense of urgency. He cared about this matter very much. Yang Lai and Gue Hai Dao both became stunned when they saw how desperate Feng Xiaotian behaved. They had already spent quite some time with Feng Xiaotian in the past. Their impression of him was that he was always at ease and incorruptible. He had severed his desires and emotions, having transcended mortal affairs. He had never behaved so desperately and urgently before. Qinhuang who has already been accepted into the sect. He's currently cultivating there, replied the pavilion master. The three saint kings had already become rather uncertain of Feng Xiaotian's identity. It was just far too shocking for him to be their founding ancestor, but there was no possible way to explain how Feng Xiaotian was able to wield their emperor armaments so easily. More importantly, the three of them could sense a unique presence that would only appear on a disciple of the Pure Heart Pavilion radiating from him. Ha 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 ha. Good. Very good. Fantastic. Feng Xiaotian laughed aloud. He said to Yang Lai and Gue Hai Dao, "I must immediately return to the Pure Heart Pavilion, so let's catch up some other time." With that, Feng Xiaotian ripped open space with his duster and left. Feng Xiaotian silently appeared in the miniature world of the Pure Heart Pavilion. He did not catch anyone's attention with his arrival. He was the one who had originally carved out this miniature world, so no one was more familiar with it than him. Currently, Qinhuang who sat on a gray rock with his eyes closed. He seemed to have fused with the world and seemed to be resonating with the universe. A mysterious energy seemed to call to him from afar. Feng Xiaotian appeared silently before Qinhuang who, but as soon as he had arrived, Qinhuang who slowly opened his eyes and stared calmly at Feng Xiaotian, as if he had sensed his arrival. "As I expected. My strength far exceeds yours, but I still can't hide from your senses if I come in close contact with you." Feng Xiaotian stared at Qinhuang who with shining eyes, as if he was examining some rare treasure. Before he had awakened his memories, he did not understand the path of cultivation Qinhuang who had embarked on. He had even tried to persuade Qinhuang who to turn back out of good intentions. However, it was different now. He had awakened his memories and knew a lot more. He understood extremely well what comprehending the realm of great liberation meant. "So it's Senior Feng Xiao. I may have vaguely sensed, within the past few days, that someone I once knew would come looking for me. I didn't think it would be you." Qinhuang who recognized Feng Xiao in a single glance and became a little surprised. "What? You sensed that I would come looking for you beforehand?" Feng Xiaotian felt like he had been struck by a bolt from the blue when he heard what Qinhuang who had said. Just how powerful was Qinhuang who? Just how powerful was he? Qinhuang who could actually sense that he would come looking for him. This was just unbelievable. The Wuxia kingdom was originally a kingdom only slightly more powerful than the Jessan kingdom. They were over 100,000 kilometers away, but in the recent years, their status had skyrocketed. They had become a medium-sized kingdom only second to the 8 great kingdoms. This was all because one of their imperial protectors had broken through to Saint Ruler. The Wuxia kingdom had 5 powerful clans besides that. All these clans possessed Heaven Saint Masters while the strongest was the Tianqin clan. A 5th Heaven Saint Master had even appeared in their clan, making them the most powerful organization aside from the royal family. The overall power of the Wuxia kingdom was elevated to a whole new level with the support of so many Heaven Saint Masters and a Saint Ruler. Not only was Walorant City one of the largest cities within the Wuxia kingdom, it was also the origins of the most powerful clan in the kingdom, the Tianqin clan. Chapter 1405. Returning to the Qinhuang kingdom. The Tianqin clan reigned supreme within Walorant City. Without any exaggeration, the entire city was under their control and countless people were honored to become servants of the clan. On any other day, the Tianqin clan would appear like a slumbering primordial beast, quiet but filled with dignity. However, the Tianqin clan was filled with joy today. Even several kilometers away, the cheers and noise from the clan was still audible. The reason was because the clan had received an extremely impressive guest. The arrival of the guest had even made many of the senior members of the clan weak in the knees, causing them to tremble. The clan used everything they had to receive him, treating him courteously and in reverence. To no surprise, the guest was Jian Chen. He had come to the Tianqin clan to meet Qin Xiao. All the senior members of the clan were startled by Jian Chen's personal arrival. Although Jian Chen had come to their clans more than once in the past, his status now was incomparable to his past status, so his arrival was just like a dream to all the people in the clan. They were all ravished with joy. When Jian Chen met Qin Xiao again, Qin Xiao had become a much more steady-minded person and more mature. He had already been married and was a father. His wife was a princess of the Wuxia kingdom and had given birth to a son half a year ago. Jian Chen could not help but sigh and become filled with mixed emotions when he saw the couple carrying their infant son, because he thought of his own child, Shangguan Aojian. Jian Chen and Qin Xiao conversed in a pavilion within a garden. Although it had only been a few short years since they had last seen each other, a lot had happened since then. The two of them behaved like brothers who had just been reunited after being separated for several years, so they had an endless amount of things to discuss. They kept talking even after several hours. Jian Chen, back when I first met you, our strength was similar, yet now, you've already become a sovereign of the continent. I've even heard the rumor that you are Mo Tianyun from the ancient times. I really feel joy for you and I feel honored to have a friend like you. Jian Chen, I know you've suffered greatly in the past. Many enemies hunted you down, and while I really did want to help you, I could not. I was useless. My strength was not even a 10,000th of yours. The other reason was that your enemies only became stronger and stronger. My father worried that I would end up causing a disaster that would end the clan, so he even put me under house arrest in the past. I could not even leave even if I wanted to. Qin Xiao's voice was filled with self-blame and guilt. Back then, he had entered the gathering of mercenaries with Jian Chen at Mercenary City. Jian Chen had saved him from danger time and time again, constantly pulling him back from the jaws of death. However, he was unable to do anything when Jian Chen experienced danger himself. He had been locked at home waiting for any news of Jian Chen. Jian Chen patted Qin Xiao's shoulder to comfort him. He had never taken these matters to heart. The enemies he had offended were either Hermit clans, ancient clans, or the 10 protector clans of the continent. Any single one of them could annihilate the Tianqin clan with a flick of their finger. What Qin Xiao's father, the patriarch of the clan, had done was correct, stopping Qin Xiao from taking part in these matters. Otherwise, once his enemies came looking from the Tianqin clan, the clan's name would probably no longer be present in this city. After all, even Flame City had changed owners in the past, having been taken over by the Extinguishing Alliance for some time. If it were not for the fact that the Saint Kings of the Protector Qinhuang clan had appeared in the end and taken away the people most important to Jian Chen, the outcome would have been unfathomable. Jian Chen took the infant from Qin Xiao's wife. The infant was white and chubby, making him seem extremely adorable. He lay in Jian Chen's hands and stared at Jian Chen with his large, bright eyes. Jian Chen touched the child's face before pulling out a fist-sized amount of divine water of the world from his space ring. He fed it to the child to purify his body. The effects of the divine water were extremely powerful. Not only could the water alter the physique of people and allow cripples to become cultivation geniuses, but it was also extremely beneficial to the soul as well. As Qin Xiao's child was being fed the divine water, his physique was being purified. His talent would be extremely impressive once he grew up, and he would become a dazzling star on the continent. After returning the child back to Qin Xiao's wife, he flew out of the clan with Qin Xiao. Soon after Jian Chen left, the news that the greatest expert of the continent had visited the Tianqin clan spread across the entire kingdom. The news continued further on, beyond the boundaries of the kingdom, without slowing down at all. shocking countless people and catching the attention of many more. Unknowingly, Jian Chen's visit to the Tianqin clan had greatly increased their status. Even the imperial family of the Wuxia kingdom began to curry favor from the clan. Several days later, 7-colored rainbow clouds suddenly descended, enveloping a surrounding radius of 1,000,000 kilometers, making many saint rulers envious. However, these rainbow clouds had appeared just far too frequently recently, so it was now a common sight. As a result, very few people went to check out who had become a saint king, but most people were not as curious as they had been in the past. Deep within a mountain range several tens of thousand kilometers away, Xiao stood on a cliff as a tremendous presence permeated his surroundings. He seemed rather dazed but also excited. He really found it difficult to believe that Jian Chen had actually helped him become a saint king in just a few short days, allowing him to stand at the very apex of the continent. Xiao knew what it meant to the Tianqin clan now that he had become a saint king. The Tianqin clan had already become the leading clan of the 5 most powerful clans in the Wuxia kingdom, but they only had 5 heaven saint masters in total. They did not even have a saint ruler, but now, they had gained a saint king. After successfully helping Xiao become saint king, Jian Chen did not return to the Tianqin clan. He said a few things to Xiao before leaving the mountains. His next stop was the Qinhuang kingdom, one of the 8 great kingdoms on the continent. Jian Chen always grateful for the help the kingdom had provided. If he had not become an imperial protector of the kingdom, which allowed him to lead the elite troops through a space gate to save the Jessan kingdom, the Jessan kingdom probably would have been wiped out by the alliance of the 4 kingdoms long ago. He would not have known if the Qinhuang clan would have still existed. Although the 4 imperial protectors of the kingdom had made an exception for Jian Chen and had allowed him to become the 5th imperial protector because of his talent in an attempt to pull him to their side, Jian Chen was still unable to forget the assistance the kingdom had provided. He had already helped all the imperial protectors of the kingdom become saint kings and had returned his debt, but Jian Chen still had another important friend in the kingdom, the 3rd prince, Qin. Aside from Qin, there was also the leaders of the eastern deity swords, Qin Wujian and his 2 sons, along with Dongyi Junbai, Qing Shaofan, and the other imperial advisors that had followed him to the Jessan kingdom. Chapter 1406. The 4th Class 9 Magical Beast. Jian Chen's arrival naturally shocked the imperial palace of the Qinhuang kingdom. The 4 imperial protectors, who had just returned from the Jessan kingdom, along with the king and a large number of lords and subjects, came out to welcome him. The welcoming ceremony was extremely grand. Aside from the 4 imperial protectors, everyone else revered him. Jian Chen, the king, and the 4 imperial protectors greeted each other and asked about each other's well-being. Then Jian Chen approached the main topic. Your Majesty, may I ask if the 3rd prince, Qin, is in the palace? Even though Jian Chen was only a junior around the same age as his son, the king responded extremely politely, Imperial Protector, my 3rd son is currently out hunting. I'll send people to call him back right now. There's no need for your Majesty to be so polite. We've known each other for quite some time. Back then, didn't I trouble you several times? If it were not for your Majesty's assistance, it would not have been possible for me to bring 500,000 soldiers from the Qinhuang kingdom to the Jessan kingdom through a space gate so successfully. Speaking of which, I am indebted to you Majesty, and I have never forget my debts. Jian Chen gently smiled. The king finally relaxed. He knew that the worry he felt earlier was unnecessary. Jian Chen's status was very different than before, but he was still the same person. He was not like those other experts who possessed ridiculous pride and viewed their dignity with the utmost importance. The king smiled freely. He immediately stopped restraining himself and began conversing with Jian Chen like a good friend. There were 5 Qin heaven palaces within the imperial palace of the Qinhuang kingdom. They were the most consecrated places in the kingdom, because they were the residences prepared for their 5 esteemed imperial protectors. It was also where they cultivated in peace. Jian Chen immediately settled down in his own palace as he waited for Qin to return. When he had increased the strength of the 4 imperial protectors, he could have told them to bring Qin with them, but that was not what he chose to do because Qin was one of his best friends. He planned to visit the Qinhuang kingdom personally to see him as well as the imperial advisors who had assisted him and the father and sons at the head of the eastern deity swords. In the afternoon of the same day, Qin Ji received the news of Jian Chen's arrival and hurried back. When he saw Jian Chen, he was filled with wonder. No one could have imagined that this brother, who had fought beside him in the gathering of mercenaries, would reach the very apex of the continent, far exceeding himself. Qin Ji did not change much despite the many years that had passed since they last met. Other than becoming even more mature and steady-minded, he now possessed a sense of prestige that was cultivated from being a member of the royal family. However, he was in a similar to Qin Xiao now. He had become a father as well, having married the treasured daughter of a powerful clan within the kingdom. His child was already 3 years old. After Qin Zhao's return, Xiao Tian, Tian Luo, Qing Xiaofan, Dongi Junbai, and Chao Kaqin, the 5 imperial protectors who had gone with Jian Chen to the Jessan kingdom, all gathered in the Qin Heaven Palace to see Jian Chen. The 3 generals of the eastern deity swords, Qin Wuming, Qin Wujian, and Qin Wujian had all received Jian Chen's invitation as well and gathered in the palace. Jian Chen hosted a banquet in his Qin Heaven Palace, receiving these guests with wonderful liquor. They all toasted to each other before downing a glass. Jian Chen discussed everything that had happened in the past with them, without appearing like the strongest human expert at all. After a period of time at the table with Jian Chen, they all understood Jian Chen's temperament one by one. They had all started off the evening being cautious before gradually letting loose. Imperial Protector, I knew even back then that you would become a great person on the continent. In the end, after only these few years, you've become the strongest person on the continent. You have my praise and admiration. This Imperial Protector has supreme talent, an unprecedented prodigy. On the Tianyuan continent, you're known as the reincarnation of Mo Tianyun. I may not know whether that's true or not, but I do believe that you will surpass Mo Tianyun sooner or later and become the greatest sovereign throughout history. After becoming slightly tipsy, there was nothing this group would not talk about. Jian Chen's guests had forgotten that they were in a Qin Heaven Palace, one of the most dignified and consecrated places in the kingdom. On any other day, they would not even gain the privilege of entering a Qin Heaven Palace as imperial advisors. Unknowingly, the sun had set in the west and night descended, filling the entire world with darkness. Deep into the night, Jian Chen took the group of them out of the imperial palace and found a quiet place to increase their strength. Several days later, including Qin Ji, they all become saint kings. Every single one of them was ravished with joy. Before he left, Jian Chen gave some divine water of the world to Qin Ji as a little gift for his son. This is just unbelievable. Imperial Protector Jian Chen has actually allowed all of us to break through to Saint King in just a few short days. The Imperial Protector really is extraordinary. We're only subordinates to him, yet he has never forgotten the things we did for him in the past. He gave us such precious heavenly resources without holding back at all. The imperial advisors, Qin Wuming and so on, all sighed emotionally after Jian Chen left. They stood silently as they gazed in the direction that Jian Chen had left in. They did not leave even after quite a while. Jian Chen flew toward the ocean on the Ziying sword as a stream of light after his trip to the Qinhuang kingdom. He had met with Qin Xiao and Qin Ji, and they had both become fathers, which touched Jian Chen's heart. He thought of Shangguan Aojian, who was on the distant Three Saint Island. It had been several years since he had last seen Shangguan Aojian. He was not a good father, nor did he have any idea how Shangguan Aojian was doing. At this moment, Jian Chen's face changed. He immediately stopped the Ziying sword and a golden light shot from the center of his forehead. It was a tiny golden tower. With a golden flash, the gold-robed, golden-haired Nubis emerged. He remained in a seated position with his eyes closed as he glowed with a golden light. Terrifying pulses of energy surged from him, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Nubis has actually broken through. Jian Chen was overjoyed. A 4th Class 9 magical beast was about to appear. Nubis caused a great disturbance as he broke through to Saint Emperor. His dazzling golden light illuminated the night sky, dyeing the surroundings golden. Above him, a wave of essence surged high into the sky, condensing into a golden snake as it broke through the clouds. The phenomenon caused the clouds to violently surge while flickering lights appeared between the clouds. Chapter 1407, Shangguan Aojian's Transformation. 1. The space trembled violently as terrifying waves of energy, visible to the eye, rolled away. They expanded in all directions with Nubis at the center, shattering the space around him and causing it to alternate between darkness and a golden color. A terrifying, tremendous pressure filled every inch of the surroundings. The space seemed to be crushed under the pressure, as if it had become even tougher now. In the sky, the golden snake that had taken form from Nubis' essence moved through the clouds. It absorbed the energy in the surroundings, causing the energy in the region above the ocean to surge toward him. The snake seemed like a bottomless hole. It devoured the energy of the world endlessly, but at the same time, it became even more dazzling and resplendent, illuminating the surroundings even more. Jian watched Nubis break through from afar. The disturbance from Nubis' breakthrough was far greater than any other experts. He understood that his breakthrough this time would be a very important metamorphosis. Nubis was a beast of antiquity. He could evolve unlike humans. If he devoured the essence of his clansmen, of other golden-striped silver snakes, his own essence would become even more powerful and pure, even leading to unknown changes in the future. Nubis had only consumed the heavenly resources collected in the Qinhuang microcosm for his breakthrough this time. Ignoring their value and scarcity, just the heavenly resources themselves possessed Qinhuang qi, something that was filled with wondrous uses. The Qinhuang qi could not be absorbed by anyone, but the heavenly resources that had been soaked in it would become even more powerful and reach an even higher grade. After consuming the heavenly resources, Nubis had clearly benefited, allowing his essence to undergo a metamorphosis. The glistening essence absorbed a large amount of energy and was finally satisfied. After that, it shot through the sky as a golden streak of light, disappearing into the top of Nubis' head with another flash of light. Nubis' vital energies immediately underwent an overwhelming change after the return of his essence. His bearing became dignified while he gave off a tremendous pressure unknowingly. Compared to before, he now possessed the faint bearing of a ruler. Nubis' breakthrough caused a huge disturbance, but it finished much faster than breakthroughs of humans. He had completed the process in a very short amount of time. The golden light on Nubis gradually vanished, and so did the light that illuminated the surroundings. Only a blanket of 9-colored rainbow clouds filled the sky. Jian arrived before Nubis and said, "Nubis, congratulations on becoming a Saint Emperor, the 4th Class 9 magical beast." Nubis' face was filled with obvious excitement and joy. He felt the seemingly endless amount of energy within him and could not help but laugh at the sky. He said, "I never thought that there would be a day when I, the great Nubis, would become a Class 9 magical beast. It's been over 100,000 years since a Class 9 magical beast has appeared for the golden-striped silver snakes. In this period of time, I am the only one who has reached Class 9. Nubis wildly yelled as he let himself go. Back when he was still a saint ruler, his greatest dream had been to become a Class 9 magical beast. He had not even considered the 9th class since the ancient times were long gone. It was extremely rare for Class 9 magical beasts to appear. As a result, Nubis only treated the 8th class as his target, devoting his life to achieving it. Now, not only had he become a Saint King in an extremely short amount of time with Jian's help, but he had even stepped into the realm of Saint Emperors at an unbelievable speed. He felt like he was in a dream. "Jian, following you was the greatest decision I have ever made in my life. I believe that if I continue to follow you, I will be able to surpass my seniors without much time passing and reach Class 10, Nubis chuckled aloud. He was overjoyed. Jian smiled slightly. "Nubis, don't worry. I believe your wish will become true soon enough. You might even go far beyond that." Ha ha ha. Nubis laughed from the bottom of his heart. An odd light flickered through his eyes because he had just remembered about the beast god continent. There were also golden-striped silver snakes there. The golden-striped silver snakes were beasts of antiquities and a powerful species, but also an extremely brutal one. They did not have many clansmen at all, and using the description of mythical would be apartment. As soon as they came across another clansman, there would definitely be a slaughter. They would try to devour each other's hidden essence in order to transform or evolve. This was the same thought that Nubis currently had. Jian, I'll be visiting the beast god continent first. I'll be back very soon. Nubis was rather eager. Back then, he was not strong enough, so the beast god continent had always been a forbidden place to him. With his understanding, the old snake on the continent had reached class 8 long ago, so he was nowhere close to being that old snake's opponent when he was just a saint ruler. He always hid in the outskirts of the Cross Mountains on the Qinhuang continent and cultivated in peace, rarely appearing outside at all so he could avoid being found. However, he had become a saint emperor now. That old snake would no longer pose any threat to him. Once he devoured the hidden essence of that old snake, his own essence would become even more powerful. I'll be going to 3 Saint Island. Come look for me there once you return, said Jian. 3 Saint Island, an odd gleam of light flashed through his eyes before he agreed straightforwardly. He said, all right, I'll immediately come look for you on 3 Saint Island after I deal with that old snake on the beast god continent. Back then, that goddamn island mistress or something like that had scared me into hiding every time I saw her with her soul attacks. Now that I've become a saint emperor, my soul has become greater. Her zither won't harm me at all. When the time comes, I'll show her what's good and get back my dignity. An odd expression immediately filled Jian's face when he heard that. He chuckled aloud. I just happen to be planning on spending some days on the island. I'll be waiting for you there. Jian and Nubis separated. One made his way for 3 Saint Island while the other headed to the beast god continent. Chapter 1408, Shangguan Aojian's Transformation, 2. The endless blue ocean was calm at daybreak. The surface of the ocean seemed just like a neat blue blanket where it connected with the sky. A huge red disk began to slowly rise from the horizon. It radiated with a warm, golden sunlight, dyeing the blue sea a golden hue. The light was resplendent and dazzling. A small island stood all by itself in the vast, endless sea, far from the Tianyuan continent. A few simple fishermen entered and exited the harbor on the island on their fishing boats, which were created from wood and metal. They were making preparations for a day out at sea. Close to the island stood a 300-meter-tall stone tablet. The tablet seemed to have formed naturally, not even constructed from individual pieces of rock. On the tablet were 3 majestic words, 3 Saint Island. This was the 3 Saint Island where the heavenly Enchantress stayed. There was a small city on the island, which was completely occupied by the native fishermen of the island. They made a living from fishing when they were not cultivating. Overall, they were not powerful at all. Aside from the saintesses of the mountain, there were no saint rulers. The saintesses that stayed on the mountain possessed an extremely reverse status on the island. They were like gods to the fishermen, consecrated and divine. The people of the island would often bow toward the mountain out of sincerity. At this moment, a figure silently appeared on the edge of the island. He seemed to have fused with the surrounding space, making it difficult for someone to discover his assistance. The weaker people would not notice him even if they glanced at him. The person was not very old. He wore white robes and only seemed to be in his 20s. He was handsome, elegant, and possessed an extraordinary bearing. His face was resolute and stern from having gone through thick and thin. However, the most eye-catching thing about him were the 2 swords on his back. One of them glowed with a faint violet light while the other glowed with a faint azure light. The 2 swords were not in scabbards, nor were they tied to him by any rope or string. They seemed to be stuck to the young man's back, preventing them from falling off. To no surprise, this person was Jian. He floated high up in the air as he gazed down. He stared at the huge stone tablet for a while. The island had a tablet the first time he had come here, but the one right now was larger than before. Clearly, it had been replaced. In just the blink of an eye, I've been away from Xiao for several years already. I wonder how he has cultivated the chaotic body, Jian thought. His longing for his son became even more intense after arriving above the island. He concealed his presence as he flew toward the mountain in the distance. Jian Chen did not use the senses of his soul. He was both excited and in high spirits. He wanted to use his eyes to see his son first. A 10-meter-tall gray boulder stood silently on the edge of a cliff on the mountain. A boy who seemed only around 10 sat on the rock with his eyes closed. He circulated the energy of the world. Beneath the boulder was a cliff face several thousands of meters tall. The boy was more courageous than any ordinary person. He was young, but he sat there steadily, without any fear. A visible stream of white air surged with his breathing near his mouth and nose. Extremely pure energy of the world condensed around him, entering and exiting his pores with the rhythm of his breathing. Every breath the boy took would resonate with the energy of the world in a certain range. All his pores were open as he accepted the purification from the energy, cleansing every impurity within him and leaving behind what he was born with. A woman in a purple dress stood behind the boy. She carried a zither and her beauty seemed to even overshadow many goddesses. She gave off an otherworldly feeling, making her seem like a fairy from heaven. She was the heavenly enchantress, but her strength had already far exceeded Saint Ruler. She looked at the boy with gentle affection. In reality, she stood near the boy every time he cultivated, fixated on the boy, unless she was not present on the island. She seemed to fear that the boy would come across some danger. At this moment, the heavenly enchantress' face changed. She suddenly turned in a certain direction and the gentleness in her eyes quickly disappeared. It was replaced with coldness, making her seem like an unapproachable glacier. At the same time, the cultivating boy suddenly opened his eyes as well. His eyes lit up while he stared into the distance with joy. He exclaimed, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy's here." The boy was extremely excited, standing up on the rock in a single movement. He stood on the rock as he pointed into the distance, jumping up and down as he cried out. He was overly excited, causing his little face to become flushed. Jian Chen slowly flew over from afar. He did not move fast at all. He just smiled as he approached the island. "Daddy, you've finally come back. I've missed you so much. I think of you every day." Jian Chen landed on the ground and Xiao Bao leaped off the boulder. His small body possessed extraordinary agility, and he glided several dozen meters before hitting the ground. He then clung onto Jian Chen's waist. Xiao Bao had grown quite a bit. He was 1.5 meters tall, already taller than Jian Chen's waist. Jian Chen hugged Xiao Bao. He was so excited that he became speechless. The cold-blooded him also had a soft side. "Why have you come?" The heavenly enchantress kept her eyes on Jian Chen as she impolitely inquired. She did not seem to welcome Jian Chen from her gaze. Jian Chen looked at the heavenly enchantress and warmly smiled. "Xiao Bao's my child too. As his father, of course I came to see him." Pausing a little, Jian Chen continued, "I know I owe Xiao Bao a lot for all the years I have been gone. I haven't taken up the role of a father. I'm not a responsible one, but I will make up for what I have done as much as I can. Xiao Bao is my second chance at life." "Master, have guests come to our island? Which island master or sect master has come to visit? There sure are a lot of people who have come to visit you within the past few days." At this moment, Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu's voices rang out. They currently made their way over with Qin. Chapter 1409, Shangguan Aojian's Transformation, 3, Ah. "Master. Jian Chen is here as well." The three ladies discovered Jian Chen as soon as they glanced over. They were surprised. However, the gazes they used to look at Jian Chen became mixed. Even calling him by his name sounded rather awkward. Jian Chen had exposed his relationship with Xiao Bao the last time he had come to the island, allowing the three of them to learn that Xiao Bao was the son of their master. This took the three of them by shock and disbelief. Even now, they did not know how to refer to Jian Chen. Did they have to refer to him as Master Jian Chen, like in the past, and treat him as any other guest, or did they have to call him master-in-law? However, the three of them still did not know that Jian Shen was no longer the same person they had once knew. He had not changed in appearance or temperament, but his strength had undergone an overwhelming change. He had become the greatest human expert and was known as the second Mo Tianyun by everyone. Some even called him an incarnation of Mo Tianyun. It's been quite some time. Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, you look even better than before. Jian Shen greeted the two of them with a smile before turning his eyes to the young lady of the Tianqin clan, Qin. He said, Miss Qin, you've already left home for close to 10 years. 10 years is not a short amount of time to your family. Your family members miss you dearly. If you have the time, you should go back and visit them. Jian Shen had passed this on for Qin Xiao. When he had caught up with Qin Xiao back in the Tianqin clan a few days ago, he had learned that Qin Xiao had thought about his sister for many years now. Unfortunately, his low strength had prevented him from traveling very far, so he could only keep that thought on hold. Even though Qin Xiao had become a Saint King now and had gained the ability to use space gates so that he could visit any place on the continent, Jian Shen had forgotten to tell Qin Xiao the location of the island. It would be extremely difficult for a Saint King to search for a tiny island in the vast ocean without knowing its precise location. The ocean could be found in all 4 cardinal directions as well, and it was far vaster than the continent. The phase Qin was using to look at Jian Shen with became extremely mixed the moment she saw him. Her thoughts were a complete mess. Only when she heard Jian Shen mention her family did she manage to gather some thoughts together. She said with some reminiscence and sorrow, Master Jian Shen, is my father and everyone else well? They are very well. The Tianqin clan is like the midday sun right now. They have already become the leading clan of the 5 great clans in the Zhuya kingdom, only second to the imperial family. And right now, the Tianqin clan's name has probably already spread across quite a bit of the continent, being ranked as one of the most powerful clans on the continent. Jian Shen discussed the current situation of the Tianqin clan and told her everything he knew, including how Qin Xiao had become a father. However, he did not mention that Qin Xiao had become a Saint King. Qin missed her family, but she was clearly preoccupied. She did not pay attention to the news that the Tianqin clan's name had become renowned across the continent. She fell silent after learning that her family was fine. She glanced past Jian Shen and Xiao Bao in a slight daze and remained quiet. The heavenly enchantress glanced at Qin before saying to Jian Shen, "You've seen Xiao Bao, so it's time for you to leave." The heavenly enchantress' voice was cold. She directly told Jian Shen to leave, finding his presence unwelcome. Jian Shen produced a dry cough. Just when he wanted to say something, Xiao Bao clung onto him tightly and said instead, No, I don't want Daddy to go. Daddy isn't allowed to go. Mummy, I don't want Daddy to go. Xiao Bao, listen. The heavenly enchantress sternly demanded in a deep voice. However, the gaze she directed at Xiao Bao still bore the presence of affection. No, I don't want to. I want Daddy. I want Daddy to stay with me. Daddy hasn't come to visit me in a long time. I miss Daddy. I want Daddy to stay here with me and Mummy. Xiao Bao, who always listened to the heavenly enchantress, had actually turned his back on the heavenly enchantress without any hesitation at that moment, as if his father, who he had not seen for many years, was much more important than his mother, who stayed by his side and loved him at all this time. The heavenly enchantress' chest rose and fell slightly, clearly angered. At the same time, she felt helpless inside. Including today, Xiao Bao had only met Jian Shen 3 times in total ever since he had been born. Each meeting did not last very long either, but Jian Shen seemed to hold an extremely important position in Xiao Bao's heart. Xiao Bao's feelings for Jian Shen had not become diluted with time. You leave first. The heavenly enchantress waved her hand and dismissed Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, and Qin. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu looked at each other before backing off with Qin. They all left together. After they departed, Jian Shen carefully examined Xiao Bao. He focused on Xiao Bao's strength and discovered that his body was extremely tough even though he had not reached the first layer yet. He had built a solid foundation for cultivating chaotic force. This time, I will spend a few days on 3 Saint Island and specifically guide Xiao Bao with his cultivation. Xiao Bao possesses the innate chaotic body. He cultivates chaotic force and walks a cultivation path different from the norm. You do not understand this path, but it just happens to be the one that I've taken as well, Jian Chen explained. This time, the heavenly enchantress did not say anything. She stared at Xiao Bao before drifting away after quite some hesitation. She vanished off to the other side of the mountain. Oh, yay! Daddy's finally spending time with me. Xiao Bao cheered when he heard that Jian Chen would be staying for some time. After that, Jian Chen casually carved out a cave in the mountain to serve as a place where the two of them could stay. The cave was not very big, but it was very wide. Jian Chen placed a large number of luminous pearls in the dim cave. Every single one of them let out a gentle light, making it seem like daytime in the cave. In the cave, Xiao Bao sat down and began to cultivate under Jian Chen's guidance. The 2 swords on Jian Chen's back shone with a faint glow. The light from the swords vaguely condensed into a young man and woman. They paid close attention to Xiao Bao as he cultivated. Beside Xiao Bao were a lot of peeled skins and other useless waste that came from heavenly resources. Although Xiao Bao possessed the rare innate chaotic body, which possessed endless potential and guaranteed a glorious future, there was a heavy price behind such glory. That price was the tremendous requirement of energy for cultivation, which would greatly exceed any person's imagination. The normal chaotic body was like that, and the innate chaotic body did not make an exception. Because chaotic force was just too powerful, the amount of energy of the world on the Tianyuan continent required to form a single strand of pure chaotic force probably could not even be described as tremendous. As a result, a vast requirement of low-level energy like the energy of the world would be needed to create the chaotic body. The chaotic force cultivated by Xiao Bao's innate chaotic body would not be true chaotic force either. True chaotic force could be divided into yin and yang and could create an entire world. It could also destroy a universe and throw laws into chaos. It was powerful and terrifying. Only this was true chaotic force. According to the sword spirits, no one had ever cultivated it successfully. Even though Xiao Bao possessed the innate chaotic body, the chaotic force cultivated by him would be much weaker than true chaotic force. It would need to be strengthened and transformed step by step. Chapter 14:10, Shangguan Aojian's Transformation. For, even though that was the case, the innate chaotic body still possessed huge advantages over the normal chaotic body. First of all, its growth speed was much quicker. Secondly, the chaotic force used by the innate chaotic body was much purer and more powerful than the normal chaotic body. Thus, the innate chaotic body would dominate the normal chaotic body if they were on the same level. The innate chaotic body reigned supreme when the levels were the same. Lastly and more importantly, the future achievements of the innate chaotic body were incomparable to the normal chaotic body. Cultivators of the normal chaotic body had never reached the ultimate realm of cultivation and probably never would, but that was not necessarily the case for someone with the innate chaotic body. The innate chaotic body was a perfect, natural creation while the other one was sculpted by external forces. The sculpted body was coarse and flawed with a limited future. It would be extremely difficult to reach a supreme realm of cultivation with it. Jian Chen sat before Xiao Bao and remained fixated on him. Xiao Bao was currently devouring heavenly resources to forge his chaotic body. Although he had always devoured the heavenly resources and monster cores that Jian Chen had left for him to forge his body, he had still not reached completion. After all, the energy needed to be refined into chaotic force. Then the chaotic force would fuse into his organs and his flesh and blood, allowing his body to strengthen altogether. After absorbing the chaotic force he had refined, Xiao Bao's body began to shine with a hazy glow. His body seemed to have become enchanted, becoming abnormally powerful and almost immune to weapons. The cultivation steps of the innate chaotic body was somewhat different than Jian Chen's normal chaotic body, but there was one aspect that was completely the same, which was the first step, forging the body. Several hours later, Xiao Bao roused from his cultivation. He beamed with joy. Daddy, I can feel that I'm almost done forging my body. It's like it's almost full. Keep cultivating. You may possess the innate chaotic body, but you still haven't properly begun cultivating it. Only after forging your body can you cultivate chaotic force, and only when you can use chaotic force in battle have you truly begun the cultivation process. The sword spirits just happen to be here today, so you can ask them if you come across any problems or difficulties, said Jian Chen. Although he loved Xiao Bao dearly as well, he was extremely strict in regard to his cultivation. Jian Chen had understood the importance of strength long ago after having experienced slaughter time and time again on the Tianyuan continent. It was very difficult to last very long without great strength. It was impossible for him to be around Xiao Bao at all times. They would end up separating sooner or later, and at that time, all the dangers Xiao Bao would face would have to be resolved and dealt with by his own strength. Allowing Xiao Bao to do what he wished right now would be equivalent to cutting off his future, cutting him off from his future glory. Xiao Bao nodded and pulled out around a dozen 1,000-year-old or 10,000-year-old heavenly resources from his space ring. He began cultivating once again after devouring a few of them. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Bao had already been cultivating in the cave for several days. During those days, he had consumed a large amount of heavenly resources and high-class monster cores. Only a small fraction of what Jian Chen had originally given him remained. On this day, Xiao Bao's chaotic body was completely forged. The chaotic force he refined was no longer used to strengthen his body and instead slowly moved through his body like streams. It never stopped moving, as if it had become a second type of blood for Xiao Bao. With your body as the furnace and your soul as the flame, use the power of the world to start the furnace, and once it is complete, use it to refine the medicine. The medicine remains in the furnace, nourishing the furnace. The furnace refines the medicine, and the medicine keeps the fire blazing. Father, have I properly gained the chaotic body now? As soon as the medicinal effects were absorbed, Xiao Bao opened his eyes and beamed with excitement. Keep going, don't stop. Using the medicine to keep the fire blazing is only an important start. Jian Chen said nothing. It was Zi Ying's stern voice instead. His eyes were filled with excitement. Today, he was about to personally witness an owner of the innate chaotic body properly step upon the path of cultivation and succeed under his guidance. Xiao Bao immediately dismissed his thoughts. This time, he devoured all the heavenly resources in a single breath while holding 2 Class 8 monster cores in his hands. Vast energy leaked out after devouring so many heavenly resources. The energy immediately caused Xiao Bao's body to swell and bulge in size. If it had been any other person, they probably would have exploded long ago and died, but Xiao Bao's chaotic body was already extremely powerful. It was equivalent to Jian Chen's chaotic body at the first layer. With just his body, he could emerge unscathed from the direct attack of a third heavenly layer Saint Ruler. Although the energy in the heavenly resources was powerful, it was not enough to cause Xiao Bao's body to explode. Xiao Bao began to refine the energy with all his effort, causing his bulging body to gradually recover its original shape. During this period of refinement, Xiao Bao took a total of 2 days. After that time, the chaotic force within him had changed from small streams into a river, which circulated through every part of his body. It did not gather in his dantian, leaving it empty even now. At the same time, a faint gas would float out and fuse into his soul with every revolution of the chaotic force. His soul was currently undergoing a quantitative increase. To refine the medicine with the furnace and to have the medicine keeps the fire blazing, chaotic force was the medicine while the fire was the soul. As the chaotic force circulated within his body, it nourished his soul as well, making it become even more powerful. While cultivating chaotic force, Xiao Bao was cultivating his chaotic body and his soul as well. The 3 of them remained in balance throughout the whole time. Only the innate chaotic body could achieve this. Jian Chen was only able to cultivate 2 of them together. Xiao Bao's soul had not condensed before and still lingered throughout his body, but at this very moment, under the nourishment of the chaotic force, his soul was strengthening at an unbelievable pace. It had gradually morphed and condensed. A free, condensed soul was the symbol of a saint ruler on the Tianyuan continent. Only those who had reached saint ruler could condense their soul. They would never die unless their souls were wiped out. That was just a literal translation of a common occurrence of souls in Chinese novels. A normal soul is bound to the body and will die with the body, as seen with Heaven's Saint Masters. When they are freed and able to move independent of the body, they are the souls of a saint ruler. In other novels, this stage may be called nascent soul. The Chinese characters for soul and Heaven's Saint Masters and saint rulers are different, but they both mean soul from an English point of view, kind of like something you can't really translate. As a result, I will keep both of them as soul, but I will describe one of them as condensed, when there is a need to identify the two types of souls, so condensed will be used instead of origin soul since assigning names makes things more complicated than they need to be. The moment Xiao Bao condensed his soul, Jianchen narrowed his eyes. He discovered that Xiao Bao's soul was unique. Everyone else's soul was white, but his was extremely odd. It was chaotic. It did not seem to possess any color, but it also seemed to bear all the colors in the world as it shone with dazzling light. Chapter 14:11, Nubis' scheme. Xiao Bao's soul is different than mine, but I feel like his soul is much more powerful than an ordinary person. Even mine cannot compare to his, Jianchen thought. Jianchen wondered if it was one of the differences between the innate chaotic body and the normal chaotic body. The normal chaotic body cultivated chaotic force as well, but there were many aspects that could not compare to the innate chaotic body. The normal chaotic body's only advantage was that there were quite a few people who could practice it. There had always been practitioners of the normal chaotic body in the immortals' world. The normal chaotic body only required chaotic force to modify and morph it. The innate chaotic body rarely ever appeared at all. Although the creation of a normal chaotic body seemed easy, there were not many people who could succeed. There were countless prodigies who wasted themselves on this path of cultivation because not everyone could use chaotic force to modify themselves. Jianchen had learned all this from the sword spirits. The medicine keeps the flame blazing. Daddy, I've done it. Have I properly stepped onto the path of cultivation? Xiao Bao roused from his cultivation and his eyes immediately lit up. His face was filled with excitement. Jianchen finally smiled when he saw how excited Xiao Bao was. His face was filled with relief. Xiao Bao had truly embarked on cultivating the chaotic body. His strength was equivalent the first layer of Jianchen's chaotic body, allowing him to fight saint rulers. At the same time, he had condensed his soul. A condensed soul was the representation of a saint ruler. Even though he walked a different path of cultivation and did not comprehend the mysteries of the world, his true strength was even slightly stronger than when Jianchen was at the first layer. This was all because of his innate chaotic body. Xiao Bao had not even reached 10 years old yet. If the news that he possessed the strength of a saint ruler was broadcasted, it would definitely shake the entire world. This was because many people had only just begun cultivating at this age. They were working hard on condensing their saint weapons to become a saint. The heavenly Enchantress entered the cave. She did not even glance at Jianchen, placing all her attention on Xiao Bao. A sliver of joy flashed through her eyes when she sensed how Xiao Bao's presence had become countless times more powerful than before, but the joy was hidden very soon. Jianchen knew that the heavenly Enchantress had always been secretly watching over Xiao Bao, because she could not stop worrying about him. She showed her love for Xiao Bao very rarely, but it came from the bottom of her heart. Jianchen removed a large amount of heavenly resources, the ones he had obtained from the Qinhuang microcosm, and Class 8 and 9 Qinhuang beast energy crystals. He gave them all to Xiao Bao so that he could continue cultivating. Jianchen was dissatisfied with Xiao Bao's strength at the level of Saint Ruler. He did not know when the world of Forsaken Saints would attack again, but there was one thing he was certain about. The next time they attacked, the combatants from the foreign world would definitely be even more terrifying. The battlefield might even engulf the entire planet, and Saint Emperors may not be able to protect themselves. As a result, Jianchen needed to do everything he could to increase Xiao Bao's strength in the time he had in an effort to make him even stronger. Jianshen then took out some divine water of the world, a 5th grade violet cloud peach, and some comprehension tea leaves and gave them to the heavenly enchantress. He then explained their usages to her. The heavenly enchantress walked another path of cultivation. She didn't need to comprehend the mysteries of the world on the Tianyuan continent, but her way of the zither was also a type of law, one of the myriad of ways, so these items would obviously benefit her. The heavenly enchantress hesitated to accept Jianshen's items. She did not take them immediately. If Jianshen was giving them to her to keep for Xiao Bao, she would not hesitate to take them. She believed that he was only supposed to give Xiao Bao things. However, it was a whole different matter if he was giving them to her to use. The spatial tunnel was not stable last time the foreign world attacked, so no origin realm experts came. Only a clone of their leader, the Spirit King, had come. However, the tunnel will become extremely stable the next time they attack. There will be origin realm experts. If you are not powerful enough, how will you protect Xiao Bao? Do you want to see Xiao Bao fall before you without being able to do anything? Jianshen explained. A struggle unfolded within the heavenly enchantress' eyes when she heard his words, but she silently agreed with him in the end. She accepted Jianshen's items because she understood the power of the foreign world very well. She understood that the next time they attacked, it would definitely be like a storm and the entire world become the battlefield. Nowhere would be safe, so the only way to survive was to be powerful enough. The Beast God continent was a land no smaller than the Tianyuan continent. 90% of its surface was covered in lush forests while enormous ancient mountain ranges stood in large clusters, almost occupying the entire continent. There was rarely any flat land. The Beast God continent was an extremely suitable habitat for the magical beasts. It was like heaven to them. Not only did the continent have far more mountain ranges than on the Tianyuan continent, but the energy of the world there was denser as well. They would be able to cultivate at greater speeds. The Beast God continent also had cities and tribes that represented the rulers of certain regions. Class 7 magical beasts in human form would shoot through the sky from time to time. Within an ancient mountain range, a young man in golden clothes lay lazily on a 3-meter-long branch. He was in a daze as he stared at the sky in exhaustion. Sigh, the Beast God continent is just far too vast. Even after becoming a Saint Emperor, it's not easy to find a specific person. I've already been here for several days, yet I haven't heard any news of that old snake. Where the hell is he hiding? The young man murmured. To no surprise, this young man was Nubis, and he had just broken through. Was there only that snake that had been slain by the Grand Elder of Mercenary City on the Beast God continent? Nubis furrowed his brows in thought before shaking his head again. Impossible, the sources of my information are reliable. There should be another, even more powerful snake on the Beast God continent, but I've found nothing regarding him even after several days of searching. Has that old snake been keeping a low profile, meaning he's not well known? Or is it that no one knows where that old snake is? Nubis suddenly slapped his knee after a moment of silence. He immediately sat up and said, since I can't find that old snake, I can only draw him out. I refuse to believe that I can't find you. Nubis was immediately encased by a dazzling golden light. His presence rapidly weakened as he bathed in the light, dropping from Saint Emperor to Saint King very quickly. It did not just stop there, dropping to even lower levels, before stopping at the level of a 9th heavenly layer Saint Ruler in the end. Afterward, Nubis transformed into a golden, several thousand-meter-long snake that was only the thickness of a tree in a single movement. He took to the sky, and from afar, he seemed like a golden ribbon. Chapter 14:12. Cloud-scattering city. Nubis flew through the sky as a several thousand-meter-long snake. As a Class 9 magical beast, he had obviously comprehended the mysteries of the world at a high level. His body became blurry as he completely fused with the surrounding space, hurrying along with the use of spatial force. He moved extremely quickly, shooting across the sky and disappearing into the horizon. As a golden-striped silver snake, there will be a duel of life and death as soon as I meet another clansman. Although there have been a few golden-striped silver snakes across history, all of them have experienced a death match whenever they come across a clansman, as seen in my inherited memories. The victor will dominate and devour the essence of the loser, allowing the victor to evolve and become even stronger. There are extremely few golden-striped silver snakes in the world, so I refuse to believe that the old snake won't be interested once I broadcast my identity. He'll definitely come looking for me, and as soon as he appears, I'll be able to devour him and strengthen my essence, thought Nubis. He felt proud of himself for being able to think of this. He did not take the old snake's strength to heart at all. 10,000 kilometers away from Nubis, a city stood silently within a mountain range. It seemed to have been built on a mountain. Its top had been sliced off, and it was surrounded by countless other mountains. The city possessed a simple design. It only had a ring of low city walls, which were pitch black and built from a rare type of earth found on the Beast God continent. The rare type of earth was even tougher than rock. A powerful ripple of energy emanated from within the city walls, clearly channeled into the walls by a powerful magical beast, reinforcing the walls to become several times tougher than steel. Only Class 7 magical beasts and above possessed this ability. 2 words were carved on a slant on the city walls, Cloud Scattering. They represented the name of the city, which was Cloud Scattering City. The city was quite well known in a radius of 1,000,000 kilometers because the city possessed 2 powerful Class 7 magical beasts. One of them had reached the peak of Class 7, equivalent to the 9th heavenly layer of a saint ruler. The Beast God continent was no less brutal than the Qinhuang continent. Slaughter between the members of the same race were present everywhere, because it was a process for fast growth. They could either devour the monster cores of others to strengthen themselves or eat their flesh, hoping for the rare chance that a mutation would occur within their body. Once a mutation occurred, they would immediately undergo a rebirth, mutating from their very source. It was a similar process to when a human with average talent became a prodigy at cultivation. And these mutations did not only mean one would undergo a metamorphosis. It meant that their battle prowess could become even greater. This was why it was very difficult to find a safe place on the Beast God continent. If one was not strong enough, one would be hunted down even when cultivating and would die due to the slightest carelessness. Those who were strong could take up territory and claim to be its ruler, but even when that happened, they needed to be aware of even more powerful magical beasts who would come and fight them. The cities and tribes on the continent were the safe houses of many magical beasts. Every city or tribe possessed powerful magical beasts. They would create rules and order, banding together into organizations. As long as people became a member of these organizations or paid valuable heavenly resources to gain the right to stay there, they would be able to cultivate in peace without worrying about being attacked by others. Cloud Scattering City was as prosperous as any other day. A large amount of magical beasts moved in and out. All of them remained in beast form, ranging between Class 3 and Class 6 in strength. Large beasts stood over 10 meters tall while smaller ones were only a meter or 2. There were many various species. Magical beasts developed intelligence far quicker on the Beast God continent than on the Qinhuang continent. As long as they had reached Class 2, they would have gained a lot of intelligence already, so regardless of strength, all the magical beasts behaved in an orderly fashion once they entered the city. They completely erased the viciousness they normally bore. At this moment, a golden streak of light hurried over formed the distance before stopping above the city in the end. It was a very long but thin snake. The snake was Nubis. He hovered above the city as he coldly gazed down. His gaze was filled with a cold-blooded ruthlessness. He opened his mouth and immediately sprayed out a dense, venomous substance. It rapidly engulfed the city below as a rolling cloud. The venom was extremely potent. It wafted through the air, and in a short moment, all the vegetation in the surrounding 10 kilometers withered at an unbelievable speed before turning to dust, dispersing in the incoming wind. The venomous gas descended on the city. Regardless how powerful the magical beasts were, the ones who came in contact with it collapsed on the ground, powerless as black blood oozed from their mouths. They did not even have the power to flee. All the magical beasts in the city became stunned with the sudden occurrence. They all turned their heads to where the gas had wafted over from as disbelief filled their faces. The city was watched over by 2 Class 7 magical beasts, and one of them had even reached the peak, only a single step away from Class 8. The city had become a famed organization in the surrounding region of 1,000,000 kilometers because of the 2 of them. There had never been someone who dared to provoke them throughout history. They had no idea just which ignorant person had come to cause trouble. However, when the magical beasts saw the groups that had collapsed onto the ground, powerless, as the venomous gas drifted over, they immediately fled for their lives. They left as quickly as they could. They did not care about whether the city could stop the invader. They needed to protect their lives first. In a single moment, the orderly city fell into a mess. All the magical beasts fled for their lives. Many of them showed fear when they witnessed how terrifying the gas was. At the same time, 2 tremendous presences radiated from beneath the city. The 2 most powerful experts in the city had emerged. 2 burly old men had silently appeared in the air. They both gave off a powerful presence. The 2 of them were both saint rulers. They were the 2 experts who watched over the city. Chapter 14:13. The Fall of a City. The 2 human form Class 7 magical beasts of Cloud-Scattering City had been cultivating in seclusion deep underground. They immediately roused from their cultivation when they sensed something had happened to the city. They left their underground location in a single moment and silently appeared in the sky. Class 7 magical beasts were equivalent to saint rulers on the Tianyuan continent. Even on the beast god continent, they were experts who could dominate an entire region. So the 2 Class 7 magical beasts were like the protector gods of the city. Many frightened magical beasts calmed down when they saw the 2 of them appear. The strongest magical beasts in the city were only Class 6, so they admired and trusted the Class 7 magical beasts from the bottom of their hearts. Even though they could sense that the golden snake who had produced the venomous gas was not weak, the snake had not assumed a human form, so many of them believed that the snake was not Class 7. They assumed that its venom was just potent. As a result, a few magical beasts stopped fleeing when the 2 Class 7 magical beasts appeared. They stopped in the distance to watch, believing that the 2 Class 7 experts would be able to easily slay their opponent. A beast of antiquity, a golden-striped silver snake. The 2 Class 7 magical beasts' eyes became fixated on the huge golden snake. Their eyes narrowed by an undetectable amount while they softly exclaimed at the same time. Beasts of antiquity possessed extraordinary statuses on the continent. They often represented great potential and incomparable strength. No one was their opponent while on the same level of cultivation, and they even possessed the power to challenge those stronger than themselves. There were countless magical beasts on the beast god continent, but beasts of antiquity were almost mythical existences. Without any exception, every appearance of a beast of antiquity would shake the continent. This was because these magical beasts would definitely be able to reach Class 8 if they matured successfully, having even a tiny chance at reaching Class 9. They were invincible among their own level of cultivation and only other beasts of antiquity could pose a threat to them. However, the eyes of the 2 old men became filled with greed. The gazes they used on the huge snake underwent consequent changes, looking at the snake as though it was not a venomous golden-striped silver snake but a huge treasure. If I slay this golden-striped silver snake and consume its flesh, drink its blood, and devour its monster core, there'll be an extremely great chance at mutating, so I can become even more powerful. It will lead to an even greater future for me. At this moment, similar thoughts crossed the heads of both magical beasts. Their breathing became much more rugged as soon as they considered that before them was a good chance at mutating. Without saying much, the 2 magical beasts struck out together. Their eyes burned with desire, wanting to kill the golden-striped silver snake in the shortest amount of time possible. The 2 old men silently appeared before the snake, and with a thought, they used spatial force to freeze the space there in a single moment to immobilize the snake. Afterward, their hands turned into claws, which swept across the snake's head in a single flash. They tried to kill the snake in the simplest, most efficient way possible. The snake was obviously Nubis. Nubis did not let out any of his presence and had appeared in his original form, which was why the two Class 7 magical beasts had failed to see his strength that had been suppressed to the 9th heavenly layer. They treated him as a Class 6 magical beast. Nubis sneered at them. With a slight tremor of his long body, the frozen space immediately shattered, unable to stop him at all. Afterward, his long body suddenly moved. He traveled extremely quickly, tightly wrapping around the weaker Class 7 magical beast in a single golden flash before he could react. Afterward, he opened his mouth and bit the other magical beast. With a crack, the magical beast's arm was bitten off by Nubis. The peak Class 7 magical beast produced a grunt of pain. His face immediately paled as he retreated with lightning-like speed while in disbelief. His gaze toward Nubis was filled with shock. The blood where his missing limb rapidly blackened. Not only had Nubis bitten off his arm, he had injected his body with venom. The venom caused the magical beast to helplessly tremble. Why, you're not Class 6, but Class 7 and at the peak of Class 7. The magical beast cried out. Only now did he suddenly understand that the snake before him was not as weak as he had imagined. His strength was something he could not handle. Nubis smiled. He did not assume a human form, but he spoke human tongue. You're right. I, the great Nubis, have stopped being Class 6 magical beast long ago, but you learned that too late unfortunately. The peak Class 7 magical beast's face changed drastically. Without any hesitation, he suppressed the venom within him, abandoned the city he had invested several years in and began to flee. Nubis did not pursue him. He stared coldly and ruthlessly at the other magical beast that he had wrapped around and his body tightened suddenly. Twisting like a meat grinder, the Class 7 magical beast was forcefully squashed to death, his bones obliterated. Bang! Suddenly, the magical beast's head exploded and his soul emerged. He fearfully flew off into the distance in a flash. However, a golden light flashed before he could escape far. Nubis' tail cut through the air from afar, catching up to the fleeing soul in a single moment. Being struck, the soul immediately dispersed, killing the expert completely. The venomous gas had already engulfed a small portion of the city. It expanded even further under the slight breeze, and in the distance, all the magical beasts stood there stunned as they gazed at the sky. Shock filled all their eyes. The two powerful Class 7 magical beasts had actually been beaten into retreat so quickly. One of them fled while the other one had died, astounding all the magical beasts in the city. Suddenly, a roar filled with fear rang out. A 3-meter-long, cat-like magical beast covered in scales had cried out and fled into the distance as quickly as it could. All the other magical beasts in the city returned to their senses. All of them fled for their lives, pushing their speed to their limits. A series of heavy footsteps rang out from below. From today on, this city no longer exists. This place will become a part of my vast territory. Remember my name. I am the beast of antiquity, the golden-striped silver snake, the great Nubis. Nubis did not hunt all of them down and instead laughed aloud in the sky. He remained in his snake form and did not turn into a human. A beast of antiquity, it's actually a beast of antiquity. Chapter 14:14, Luring the Snake Out of Its Hole. He is the Great Nubis. The Great Nubis has destroyed Cloud-Scattering City. This is now his territory. At that moment, all the fleeing magical beasts memorized Nubis' name. In the blink of an eye, the city fell into a dead silence. The entire city was engulfed by the poisonous gas, leaving a large number of magical beasts collapsed on the ground. Nubis looked at the fleeing magical beasts and secretly hesitated. He murmured to himself, "It doesn't seem to be enough. Wiping out a city doesn't seem to be enough to broadcast my great name across the entire continent. Looks like I need to keep going at it." With that, Nubis suddenly opened his mouth and sucked. The gas across the entire city immediately surged violently, having all been sucked back into Nubis' mouth. In just a few seconds, no traces of the gas were left at all. Only the vegetation that had been reduced to dust and a few shriveled trees remained, as if they were silently narrating what had just happened. Nubis left. Soon after he had left the area, a few magical beasts on the ground gently trembled before standing up with great difficulty. Without any exception, they were all Class 6 magical beasts. More and more magical beasts gradually stood up. Although they had all stood up with great difficulty, they were not dead. Nubis had become a saint emperor, so he had mastered control over his own venom. He was able to use it as he pleased. The venom from before seemed potent, turning the vegetation to dust in a single moment and even withering ancient trees, yet the venom did not kill any magical beasts in the city. It had just knocked them unconscious. The magical beasts did not stay in the city after waking up. They glanced at the sky in lingering fear. Although they could not see Nubis anymore, their fear for him had already overwhelmed them. They all left the city one by one. The city became a true ghost town, without any presence of life at all. Very soon, the magical beasts that had fled spread the news of what had happened, throwing the surrounding region of several tens of thousand kilometers in great shock. The news gradually spread further as well. The fall of a city guarded by Class 7 magical beasts was quite a significant matter within the surrounding radius of 1,000,000 kilometers. Nubis' infamy gradually spread as well. Nubis did not pay too much attention to the shock he had caused in Cloud Scattering City, because he believed that destroying a city guarded by just Class 7 magical beasts would not be enough to shake the continent. It would not be enough to draw out the snake that was hiding in an unknown location, so he turned his eyes to a powerful organization protected by a Class 8 magical beast. There were no longer a lot of Class 8 magical beasts left on the continent. Most of them had died in the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints. Only a small number had survived. The Firefinch tribe was a great organization even with the entire continent in perspective. The Firefinch clan owned a lot of territory. The Firefinch clan was originally a nameless clan on the continent and had only begun to rise in the past millennia. They began to stand out on the continent because of 3 mutated firefinches had appeared together in a single generation. 2 of them had reached Class 8 over 1,000 years ago, immediately making the clan a peak-level organization on the continent. The remaining mutated firefinch had reached the peak of Class 7 and was close to Class 8 as well. More recently, the tribe had been engulfed by heavy sorrow because one of their protectors had fallen in the battle against the foreign world on the Tianyuan continent. They had even failed to retrieve his corpse, which was an extremely heavy hit to the tribe. As the clansmen still dwelled in great grief, a golden ribbon suddenly shot over from far away. It moved extremely quickly, arriving above the tribe in the blink of an eye. Up close, the golden ribbon was a huge snake several thousand meters long, but it was only as thick as a tree. It was Nubis in his beast form. I've finally found a Class 8 magical beast after so much searching. Nubis exhaled high up in the air. In order to find a Class 8 magical beast, he had crossed countless mountains and forests, traveling a great distance along the way. He had finally found one here after great difficulty. Of course, the several organizations with Class 7 magical beasts he came across along the way all suffered disasters. However, Nubis held back. He only killed Class 7 magical beasts when the organization possessed 2 or more. He would always let one flee and would broadcast his identity as a golden-striped silver snake, as if he worried that the magical beasts that fled did not know what he was. Nubis erased his presence, which prevented the Class 7 magical beasts in the tribe to discover his existence. However, the Class 8 magical beast had discovered Nubis the first moment he had arrived. The space before Nubis gently rippled and a burly, middle-aged man with long, red hair silently appeared. His skin was crimson and even his eyes were red. A beast of antiquity, a golden-striped silver snake. The middle-aged man was the only Class 8 magical beast left in the Firefinch clan. He recognized Nubis with a single glance and a gleam of surprise flashed through his eyes, along with a smear of joy. Nubis glanced over the man with his cold, merciless eyes before turning around and fleeing without any hesitation at all. He flew into the distance extremely quickly, as if he had taken off in desperate flight. The middle-aged man sneered and mumbled, "Beasts of antiquity are extremely rare. There aren't many even across the entire continent, while the one before me just happens to be a golden-striped silver snake. They're a unique species." They have intense hatred for their own clansmen and will never give up fighting unless one of them dies if they ever meet. There's no need to worry about any experts supporting him. This beast of antiquity just happens to be weak. I can kill him with a flip of my hand. Even though I've already reached Class 8, devouring a beast of antiquity still has great benefits, and even if I have no use for the essence that can only be devoured by their other clansmen, I can offer it up to that lord. The middle-aged man immediately pursued the snake. With his strength as a Class 8 magical beast, catching up to Nubis was naturally a piece of cake. The distance between the two of them shrank very soon. Nubis did not panic at all when he saw the middle-aged man grow closer and closer to him. Instead, he sneered and thought, "You can catch up to me, the great Nubis, only because I want to complete my scheme. So what if I have to be pursued by you for a while to draw out that old snake? I can't reveal the strength of the 8th class and scare that old snake. Only with strength of the 7th class will that old snake come kill me without any hesitation at all." Chapter 14-15. The old snake appears. The Class 8 expert of the Firefinches pursued Nubis as he fled. The two of them both used spatial force, so they moved extremely quickly. Their figures flashed through space as faint blurs, disappearing in the horizon in the blink of an eye. The Class 8 Firefinch had already reached the level of Saint Kings on the Tianyuan continent. He possessed a great mastery over space through his comprehension of the mysteries of the world. Both his control over spatial force and the energy within him was incomparable to a peak Class 7 magical beast, but today, he found it extremely difficult to catch up to the peak Class 7 silver-striped rainbow snake in front of him. Although the golden-striped silver snake moved at speeds much slower than him, whenever he pulled up to the snake would shine with golden light and his speed would immediately skyrocket, reaching an unbelievable level. It would pull far ahead in just the blink of an eye, preventing the Class 8 expert from catching up no matter how much he tried. He had tried to freeze the space around the snake numerous times in an attempt to immobilize Nubis, but to his surprise, the snake was like a slippery worm, where even frozen space could not trap it. With a squirming motion, the snake would easily break free of the frozen space and continue on without slowing down at all. He had considered using space gates, but space gates were only a convenience for traveling and not for pursuing a specific target. The target could change direction beforehand when it sensed the ripples in space and run off. By the time he had emerged from the space gate, the target might have already disappeared into the horizon, so space gates were ineffective for chasing people down. When Nubis glowed with golden light again and exploded with speed, pulling far away from the Firefinch, the Class 8 expert finally became angry. His face became extremely dark. He felt ashamed that it was so difficult to catch up to a peak Class 7 magical beast. He was an expert at Class 8 and felt that his dignity as a Class 8 magical beast had been severely trampled over. You sure are worthy of being a golden-striped silver snake. Your fleeing secret technique really is very powerful, where I am unable to catch up to you in a short amount of time. However, you must consume a lot of energy when you use this type of secret technique. It's impossible for you to last very long, so I'd like to see just how much further you can flee, the Class 8 Firefinch grumbled inside with gritted teeth. Nubis seemed like he was in a desperate flight, but through his eyes, he was completely relaxed. He did not view the Class 8 expert behind him with any importance. Instead, he was even in the mood to admire the scenery around him as he fled. He suppressed his strength to the peak of Class 7, but he was still a Class 9 magical beast after all. How could a mere Class 8 magical beast catch up to him? An hour later, Nubis passed by a large tribe and came to a halt. He gazed down and his eyes immediately lit up. He opened his mouth and spat out a dense cloud of venomous gas before continuing on without even looking back. Behind him, the Class 8 Firefinch whistled through the air with his tremendous presence. He did not stop at all, charging after Nubis. At the same time, a furious, ground-shaking roar rang out from the large tribe below. The ground cracked open and a huge bear over 30 meters in height climbed out. It was covered with spotless, snow-white fur, standing there like a small mountain. The bear stood in Nubis' venomous gas and looked at the groups of clansmen who had collapsed. His eyes immediately reddened, and he roared at the sky. He turned into a white stream of light and pursued Nubis. His body underwent a transformation as well, changing from a huge, white bear into a 4-meter-tall, burly man in just a few seconds. He radiated with a tremendous presence since he was also a Class 8 magical beast. In just the blink of an eye, Nubis had fled for 2 days and the Class 8 magical beasts pursuing him had increased from 2 to 5. He had only come across these magical beasts after running across quite a fraction of the continent and he managed to offend all of them. However, without any exception, they were unable to catch up to Nubis no matter what they did. Nubis did not fight against the magical beasts and instead lead them all over the continent. Wherever he passed by, he would shock all the magical beasts and cause a great disturbance. The news of 5 Class 8 magical beasts pursuing a single golden-striped silver snake spread rapidly as well, crossing the entire continent very soon. If Nubis only assumed his original form and exposed himself on the continent, it would lead to a commotion as well, but it would not be as great as 5 Class 8 magical beasts pursuing a single Class 7 magical beast. This was because Class 8 magical beasts themselves were moving centers of attention. They would catch the eyes of people no matter where they went, let alone 5 of them trying to hunt down a Class 7 magical beast that was not as powerful as them. Let alone now, this had never happened in the history of the continent. It would still be reasonable if there were several peak Class 7 magical beasts pursuing a heavily injured Class 8, but the other way around was just far too unbelievable. In a swamp covered with poisonous gas over 10 million kilometers away from Nubis, a gold-robed old man currently sat in a dank, dark cave as he cultivated. The old man's skin shone with a faint, golden color. Although his appearance was not particularly eye-catching, he had a dignified bearing, clearly groomed from being of high status. Suddenly, the old man slowly opened his eyes. He stared outside with his deep eyes. His gaze seemed to be able to pierce the obstruction of the rocks, allowing him to see the distant beast god hall. His eyebrows furrowed with some worry. I wonder if the battle between the beast god continent and the world of Forsaken Saints has ended and how the battle ended. I may have vaguely sensed the return of many Class 8 magical beasts over the past few days, but there are just far too few compared to the number that had left. Back when the Qing Emperor called on all the Class 8 magical beasts in his territory to defend the Qinhuang continent from the invasion of the world of Forsaken Saints, he swore to put his life on the line to protect our world, but according to what I know, the world of Forsaken Saints is just far too powerful. They might not achieve victory even if the 4 races work together. I may be at the peak of Class 8, but even I am not completely confident I could survive this battle. As a result, I chose to leave my nest and hide in this obscure place by myself, escaping from the Qing Emperor's summoning. I wonder if the Qing Emperor has returned or not and if he has discovered that I deserted the battle against the foreign world. If he finds out and looks into it. The old man thought inside. He felt very uneasy, because he was one of the people specifically named by the Qing Emperor for the battle against the foreign world. However, he worried that he would die, so he had not participated. At this moment, a small, skinny old man appeared silently outside the cave like a ghost. He said with a hunched back, "Ancestor, it's rumored that a peak Class 7 golden-striped silver snake has appeared on the beast god continent and is currently being pursued by 5 Class 8 experts." The old man in the cave immediately flickered with golden light when he heard that. He suddenly stood up and arrived outside the cave excitedly. He stared at the small old man fixedly with a venomous gaze and hurriedly asked, "Are you sure? A peak Class 7 golden-striped silver snake has appeared outside?" "Ancestor, that was what I heard, but I did not confirm the rumor. However, I've already sent people to investigate the truth of this matter and believe that they will report back very soon," the skinny old man politely replied. However, as soon as he finished speaking, his face suddenly changed. He removed an ancient piece of jade from his space ring, and with a flash, a piece of information was delivered through the jade. "Ancestor, the people I've sent have already investigated this rumor completely. The matter is completely true," the skinny old man immediately confirmed. His voice bore a sliver of joy. The golden-robed old man was overjoyed. He chuckled aloud, "Good. Good. Good. Heaven must be on my side. I never thought that a golden-striped silver snake would appear at a time like this and that it would be at the peak of Class 7. I've been stuck at the peak of Class 8 for many years now, only requiring a single step to reach Class 9. If I devour the essence of that little snake, I might end up breaking through to Class 9. At that time, would there still be any need for me to fear the Peng Emperor and hide here? Chapter 14:16, You're actually Class 9. The gold-robed old man was extremely ecstatic. His eyes burned with desire as an urgent eagerness welled up within him. This was the attraction of the 9th class. Once he reached Class 9, he would be like the Saint Emperors on the Tianyuan continent. He would stand above countless people. Even across the entire beast god continent, there were only 3 Class 9 magical beasts. Every single one of them ruled an entire region of the continent and reigned supreme there. More importantly, the gold-robed old man was almost at the end of his 6,000-year lifespan. If he did not make a breakthrough, he would not have much time left, so the 9th class possessed a fatal attraction to him. Not only would it allow him to become the 4th esteemed champion of the continent, but it also represented 4,000 years of life as well. After that, the gold-robed old man learned the exact location of the peak Class 7 golden-striped silver snake from the skinny old man before leaving through a space gate. Over 10 million kilometers away, Nubis continued to flee desperately in his original form. Every time the powerful experts behind him were about to catch up, he would always flash with a golden light and explode with speed, shooting off into the distance at an unbelievable rate and immediately pulling far away from the people behind him. His jump and speed would make all the Class 8 experts clench their fists in anger, but they were without any other choices. Along the way, Nubis would always stop temporarily and cause mayhem for any organization with a Class 8 expert he came across, as if he was afraid that there was not enough Class 8 magical beasts behind him. This led to an increase from the initial 5 that tailed him to 8. Why is this golden-striped silver snake so hard to deal with? He's used his secret technique countless times along the way, but he doesn't seem to show any signs of exhaustion at all. He's still brimming with vigor. Does the secret technique he used not cause him any harm or exhaustion? Similar thoughts crossed the minds of the 8 Class 8 experts multiple times. The 8 of them had used everything they had, every method that could immobilize people, along the way, but these abilities that could even temporarily freeze experts of the same class did not have any effect on the peak Class 7 snake at all. The Class 7 golden-striped silver snake was just far too difficult to catch. Some of the Class 8 magical beasts even wanted to stop chasing him. However, whenever they thought about how the damned Nubis had used his venom to attack their clansmen without any reason, they would immediately clench their teeth again and their eyes would redden with anger. They continued their endless pursuit of Nubis. Once I catch him, I'll peel his skin, eat his flesh, and drink his blood, so what if he's a beast of antiquity? If I catch him, I'll definitely make him wish he was better off dead, god damn it. This golden-striped silver snake is clearly only at the peak of Class 7, but it's provoked all of us without any fear. This is abnormal. Does this snake have some kind of scheme? And regarding his strength, maybe he's not the peak of Class 7 like he seems on the surface. Maybe he reached Class 8 long ago. None of the Class 8 magical beasts were dim-witted. They discovered something off very soon, but they still did not give up the pursuit. Now I've surely created a large enough disturbance. 8 Class 8 experts pursuing a peak Class 7 beast of antiquity will definitely cause quite the commotion on the beast god continent. It'll spread as quickly as it can. I just wonder if that old snake has received the news, Nubis thought. He appeared desperate, but he did not even glance at the Class 8 magical beasts behind him. He moved forward without any specific direction, running wherever there was a city or a tribe, as long as there were a lot of magical beasts. God damn it, if that old snake just happens to be in seclusion and hasn't received the new, do I, the great Nubis, have to just continue like this? Nubis thought of a terrible possibility soon afterward. His head immediately began to ache. But, at that moment, the space several dozen kilometers away from him began to violently distort. A space gate rapidly formed. Before a figure was even visible, a powerful presence leaked out, actually causing the space several hundred kilometers away to ripple. The energy of the world there seemed to stop moving. The range of the extremely powerful presence included Nubis and the 8 Class 8 magical beasts behind him. It immediately caused the 8 of them to slow down. A gleam of interest flashed through Nubis' eyes. He suddenly turned his head toward the space gates several dozen kilometers away and purposefully slowed down. The Class 8 magical beasts behind all became shocked and stopped pursuing one by one. They all stared in the direction of the space gate. The presence was just far too powerful. They immediately felt like they were carrying a huge mountain on their back when the presence engulfed them, causing their bodies to grow heavier. Even the space around them seemed to be pressured by the presence, causing it to feel like mud and making movements extraordinarily difficult. The peak of Class 8. This is an expert at the peak of Class 8. A 4-meter-tall man cried out. He became very stern. He was the huge white bear that Nubis had provoked. As soon as he finished speaking, an old man in gold robes and golden hair slowly stepped out of the space gate. In his cold, ruthless gaze, there was a condescending presence, as if he was a lord that stood in heaven and reigned above life. However, the old man truly did possess that status on the beast god continent. He was a beast of antiquity and had reached the great perfection of Saint Qing. Aside from the 3 Class 9 experts, there was no one who could defeat him. The moment Nubis saw the old man, he immediately became overjoyed. His eyes burned with desire, as if the old man was not a peak Class 8 expert but a glistening treasure. At the same time, the old man caught sight of Nubis several dozen kilometers away. His eyes became filled with the same light that was filling Nubis' eyes, also becoming overjoyed with a burning desire. The old man took a single step, and with the slight rippling of space around him, he immediately vanished. When he reappeared, he was already several dozen kilometers away, right in Nubis' way. He looked at Nubis greedily as he said in excitement, "He's right, he's right. It really is a peak Class 7 golden-striped silver snake. Thank the heavens for siding with me." The 8 Class 8 magical beasts stopped quite far away. They looked at the gold-robed old man in fear and respect. Even though they were filled with hatred for Nubis and were tempted to immediately kill Nubis off since he had stopped running away, they dared not to step forward. The golden-striped silver snake that was several thousand meters long had vanished from the sky, replaced by Nubis in human form. He had returned to being a handsome young man with golden robes and hair. He stared at the old man as his eyes burned with desire. His lips curled into an odd malevolent smile. "Old bastard, I, the great Nubis, have finally lured you out. I never thought that your strength would be so great, having already reached the peak of Class 8 and only a step away from Class 9, Nubis sneered. With that, the 8 Class 8 experts in the distance all showed different expressions. They stared at Nubis in surprise. None of them had considered that Nubis had provoked them to create a disturbance and lure out this peak Class 8 expert. The gold-robed old man sneered, "Little guy, you've made a miscalculation. You may have hidden your strength, posing as Class 7 despite being Class 8, but I've reached Class 8 long ago and now stand at the peak of the 8th class. Before me, you don't even have the ability to flee." Nubis laughed aloud and stared at the old man as if he was looking at a joke. He said, "Old bastard, who said that I, the great Nubis, need to flee? You're the one who should be running." A presence great enough to make the surroundings tremble radiated from Nubis as soon as he finished speaking. The presence was just far, far greater than the golden-robed old man. As soon as the presence had appeared, the region of earth below them was pressed down and cracked. Under his presence, all the vegetation and trees in the surroundings were crushed to dust. The 8 Class 8 experts revealed a much worse expression at that moment. Their gazes became filled with shock as they all paled. They all stared at Nubis, trembling, having become absolutely terrifying. Class 9, he's actually Class 9. We've actually been hunting down a Class 9 expert this entire time, the 8 Class 8 experts lamented inside. Their hearts quivered and they seemed to feel their blood flow in the opposite direction. They had even made up their minds about death. The old man had lost his calmness and composure from before as well. He stared at Nubis in disbelief as he cried out, "You're actually class 9. Chapter 14-17, Devastation. The old man paled. Not even a shred of blood was left on his face. He was scared witless now that Nubis had displayed his presence as a class 9 magical beast, because he was also a golden-striped silver snake. He knew too well what the outcome of two snakes meeting each other would be. Without any hesitation, the old man immediately turned around and fled into the distance as quickly as he could. At the same time, he used a secret technique. He vomited a mouthful of blood and immediately became much more haggard. He paid the price of heavily injuring himself in exchange for supreme speed to flee the area. He wanted to disappear before Nubis could even react. He did not use a space gate because creating one would take some time. He would be looking to die if he tried using a space gate to flee from a class 9 magical beast. Nubis sneered, "I, the great Nubis, have endured such a great embarrassment. I endured the pursuit of these class 8 magical beasts across half of the continent only to draw you out of your nest after quite some difficulty. If you flee, wouldn't that mean I did all that for nothing?" Nubis did not pursue the gold-robed old man. He just sneered. Extending a finger, he immediately shot out a golden stream of light, which traveled toward the old man who had vanished into the horizon at unbelievable speed. The golden light was only as thick as a finger. Up close, through the hazy golden light, a golden thread was visible inside. It was only as thick as a chopstick, but it hid shocking amounts of energy. The golden thread pierced through space and disappeared. It seemed to be able to break the limitations of space and move through time, catching up with the old man in a single moment. Afterward, it expanded into a huge net, enveloping the old man. The old man's face changed. He roared at the sky and immediately began to shine with a golden light. There was a faint layer of blood red within it. A terrifying pulse of energy shook the surroundings, causing the space around him to tremble violently, almost shattering. He threw a punch at the sky, shattering the space while a terrifying amount of energy condensed into a huge punch, striking the huge golden net. He wanted to smash through the net. The old man paled even more after the punch. He knew extremely well what the outcome waiting for him was as soon as he was caught by Nubis, so not only did he explode with all his strength as a Saint King at great perfection, he had even used a supreme secret technique by burning his own essence blood. The punch he had just thrown was at the cost of his essence blood as well. The old man did not care about what the punch did. He continued to burn his essence blood, enduring the consequence of heavy injuries to wildly flee. He knew that it was impossible for him to be faster than a Saint Emperor with his strength at great perfection. Only by burning his blood to move at speeds beyond what his strength offered did he have a tiny chance of surviving. The golden punch shattered space, causing all the space it moved through to crack. It struck the falling net with a devastating presence. The collision of the net and punch did not result in any great boom. However, the net ended up bulging because of the punch. The old man's shocking attack at the cost of his essence blood had failed to disperse the net. "You dare to resist the great Nubis, even as a mere class 8 magical beast?" Nubis sneered from afar. A golden thread on his finger was connected to the net, and with a single thought, the net immediately began to shrink, enveloping the fist and quickly wearing away the energy within it. At the same time, another golden thread separated from the net. With the net as its origins, it stabbed into empty space and disappeared. It moved through the void, completely ignoring the distance between it and the old man and catching up to him in a single moment. The old man clearly sensed the golden thread pursuing him as well. His face immediately changed, becoming horrendous. However, the golden thread shot over like an arrow and did not give the old man any time to react. It stabbed into his back with a faint golden glow, piercing him and passing through his chest. Afterward, it immediately began to wrap around him again and again, tying him up like a badly wrapped present. At this moment, the thin golden thread had already extended several dozen kilometers away. It had crossed an entire region of space, reaching from the eastern horizon into the western. If someone stood at its center, it would have been impossible for them to see what the two ends were connected to. In such a short moment of time, the gold man had managed to flee several dozen kilometers. While the golden thread did not actually pass through the void of space, it moved just far too quickly. Nubis tugged his finger and the tightly wrapped old man was immediately pulled over to him from the horizon. Nubis could not help but laugh aloud as he stared at the ashen old man. Old bastard, can you still be arrogant now? To think that you wanted to devour the great Nubis' essence and reach Class 9. Why, you're a golden-striped silver snake who has just reached Class 9. Experts who have just reached Class May 9th be much more powerful than me, but I am not completely helpless against them either. I'll be able to fend off a few attacks at the very least. Have you reached Class 9 recently? Impossible. I've never heard of another Class 9 expert aside from the 3 on the Beast God continent. Nubis chuckled aloud. I may have just reached Class 9, but who would have ever thought that I had a great brother? With my brother's help, I'm no longer any ordinary Class 9 magical beast, even if I've just reached it. How can you be my opponent with your mere peak Class 8 strength? Chapter 14:18, The Submission of Class 8 Magical Beasts, Impossible. This is impossible. Once you reach Class 8, each heavenly layer is extremely difficult to attain, and at Class 9, it's even more difficult. Since you have only just become a Saint Emperor, it's impossible for you to break through the first heavenly layer and reach a higher level of cultivation. The gold-robed old man was in a daze. Even though he was filled with despair, he also found it very difficult to believe that Nubis' strength had increased so quickly even after reaching Class 9 not too long ago. Nubis smiled even wider when he saw how dejected the old man had become. He was in great spirits. He had learned long ago that there was an extremely powerful golden-striped silver snake hiding on the Beast God continent, which was why he had always remained hidden on the outskirts of the Cross Mountains. He did not join the Gilligan clan within the mountains, primarily to avoid the threat on the Beast God continent. This was because he had only been a Class 7 magical beast before. He possessed a natural sense of dread and fear for the old snake he had only heard about on the Beast God continent, extremely worried that the old snake would secretly make his way to the Qinhuang continent and deal with him. This was why Nubis had chosen to hide in the outskirts of the Cross Mountains. It was closest to Mercenary City, so he could flee into the city if the old snake really did come. In a sense, the old snake on the Beast God continent burdened his heart like an invisible mountain, maintaining a great psychological pressure. He even moved around carefully at all times, afraid that the news of him being a golden-striped silver snake would be learned by even more people. Afterward, the old snake on the Beast God continent snuck his way onto the Qinhuang continent when the Beast God continent attacked and was slain by the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, who he obtained the corpse from. After devouring the old snake's hidden essence, he inherited a small portion of the snake's memory. He had learned that there was actually an even more powerful old snake on the Beast God continent, and the snake that had been killed by Tianjian had always been controlled by the stronger, older snake. Nubis' heart sank once he had learned this. He feared the more powerful snake even more. He had also decided that the Beast God continent was a region he would never set foot on in his life. Yet now, as he gazed at the snake that had once made him fear and burdened him mentally, who was laying powerlessly in his hands, he was immediately overwhelmed by an indescribable sense of delight. He was tempted to roar out in joy in that moment. It's a pity that the medicine that I had spent great efforts in nurturing died on the Qinhuang continent, or I would have become a Saint Emperor, the gold-robed old man murmured as regret filled his face. At this moment, the 8 Class 8 magical beasts who had pursued Nubis before all erased their presences and began to silently back off. They wanted to escape. The 8 of them were all utterly terrified, where not even a shred of blood remained on their faces. They trembled gently all over as their hearts became filled with an intense fear. Some of them had even become filled with regret. They all cursed how Nubis was a powerful Class 9 expert, yet he had disguised himself as a Class 7 magical beast just to fool them, leading the 8 of them to recklessly chase a Class 9 magical beast across half the continent. If they had known that Nubis was a Class 9 magical beast, they would not have chased him even if they were 100 times braver. Nubis narrowed his eyes and his lips curled into a sneer. He slowly turned his head to the 8 magical beasts trying to flee and said, "Little brats, you've chased the great Nubis for so long. Why do you plan on running off silently now?" The 8 magical beasts immediately froze when they heard Nubis. All their hearts skipped a beat and they all revealed extremely ugly faces, along with some despair. Extending a finger, a silver thread shot out from its tip as Nubis tied up the 8 of them. He chuckled aloud, "You brats, I'll get to you after I deal with this old snake." Afterward, Nubis killed the gold-robed old man mercilessly and used a secret technique to devour his essence. This was the 3rd time Nubis had devoured the essence of another golden-striped silver snake. The one he had devoured previously possessed the strength of a 4th heavenly layer Saint King. He had only been a saint ruler when he had devoured it, and the disparity in strength had just been far too great. This was why Nubis expended an extremely lengthy period to devour all the essence, but also why his strength had increased by leaps and bounds. Now that Nubis was a saint emperor, devouring the essence of the old snake who was only at the great perfection of Saint King would not increase his power, but it would strengthen his own essence by quite a bit, bringing him great benefits. Nubis flickered with a faint, golden light all over after draining the old snake's essence. His strength remained the same as before, but his presence had vaguely strengthened. Afterward, Nubis looked at the 8 Class 8 magical beasts and snickered, "It's your turn now. You've chased the great Nubis for so long, so how should I deal with all of you?" The hearts of the 8 magical beasts tightened. Some of them immediately dropped their knees and bowed their heads. An odd smile appeared across Nubis' face as he looked around at the 8 magical beasts trapped in his silver thread. After a moment of thought, he said, "Whatever. You may have chased me halfway across the continent, but if that did not happen, it would have been impossible to draw out this old snake. Your lives may be spared, but there will still be punishment. From today on, I, the great Nubis, am your lord. Do you have any disagreements?" Spared with their lives intact, the 8 magical beasts beamed with joy. They all hurriedly exclaimed, "We thank the great Nubis for sparing our lives. From today on, we are willing to obey the great Nubis' commands." They were extremely ecstatic. The punishment Nubis had mentioned did not seem like punishment at all in their eyes. Instead, it was a blessing that many large tribes dreamed of. The brutality of the Beast God continent surpassed the Tianyuan continent. Conflict would often occur between organizations with Class 8 magical beasts, and the fall of clans was a common sight. Although they were protected by the 3 great experts of the continent, they never interfered with the conflict of others, because there were countless organizations of all different shapes and sizes in the territory they controlled. Even the destruction of a large organization would not garner too much attention. However, Nubis was different. From their understanding, Nubis had just reached Class 9, yet he possessed strength greater than regular Class 9 magical beasts. He just happened to not be in control of any organizations, so if the 8 of them yielded, they would become his first wave of power. They would naturally be particularly favored, allowing them to possess extraordinary statuses. Nubis smiled in satisfaction. He waved his hand and said, "You can go. As for the clansmen back in your tribes, their lives have not been threatened. I've only knocked them out, so they should have awakened by now. Oh yeah, once you go back, don't forget to raise a statue of me, the great Nubis, in your tribes. The statue has to be made out of pure gold. Only that is suitable for my great status." The 8 magical beasts all furiously nodded. They all raised their heads to look at Nubis carefully, burning his appearance into their minds. After the 8 of them had left, Nubis rolled up one of his wide sleeves. It immediately revealed his golden arm, and on his arm, a vague golden layer of light rotated on its surface. A special patterning covered his entire arm. In detail, the special pattern was actually similar to scales, but they were not very similar to snake scales. They had not consolidated right now, so they were very blurry, as if they had not grown properly yet. Chapter 14:19, a confident Nubis looking at the special, scale-like patterning on his arm, Nubis faintly smiled. He was rather excited as he murmured, the essence of this old snake is even more intense than the fourth heavenly layer Saint King's I absorbed before. I feel like I've consumed some extremely effective medicine that has rejuvenated me, making my body undergo some extremely evident changes. My strength may still remain the same as before, but I feel like my battle prowess is even greater than before. This old snake must have devoured the essence of a few other clansmen in his life, which is why his essence is so intense. Nubis rolled his sleeve back down and his slightly golden arm was immediately covered up. He looked up at the continent he had once yearned and feared for and murmured, "The beast god continent really is a great place. It's a suitable habitat for magical beasts. There are definitely many more magical beasts in these lands than on the Tianyuan continent, but unfortunately, it's no longer as attractive as it was to me now. And regarding that old snake, he must have stayed here for several millennia already. He may not have full control over every inch of land here, but with his strength, expanding his view across the entire continent shouldn't be too difficult. Once golden-striped silver snakes appear on the continent, they definitely won't be able to avoid his senses. Probably all the golden-striped silver snakes on this continent have already been killed by that old snake, so there's no need for me to stay any longer either. Whatever, I'll go look for Jianchen on 3 Saint Island." With that, Nubis shot off into the distance as a golden streak of light. He did not use a space gate and instead flew. He enjoyed the scenery along the way as he leisurely traveled toward 3 Saint Island. Once the 8 Class 8 magical beasts returned to their clans, they had discovered that it was indeed as Nubis had described. Their clansmen had not been harmed at all, only having been knocked out by the venomous gas he had sprayed. There was no threat to their lives whatsoever. All the clansmen who had been affected by the gas moved about energetically. Only a few weaker clansmen had not fully recovered, and their faces remained sheet white. However, the forests around their tribes had been reduced to dust by Nubis' venomous gas. Only a few thick, ancient trees stood where they were, having now shriveled and lost all signs of life. However, the 8 magical beasts completely ignored the destroyed vegetation around them. They were all overjoyed to see their clansmen completely fine. They all secretly thanked Nubis for his mercy before immediately ordering their people to collect gold. In the end, they constructed a golden statue in the center of their tribes using a large quantity of gold. The statue obviously depicted Nubis. He stood 300 meters tall and had been personally carved by the Class 8 magical beasts, making him seem lifelike. In the blink of an eye, Jianchen had already stayed on 3 Saint Island for half a month. He spent more than half of that time beside Xiao, guiding him through the cultivation process, passing on knowledge about everything, including battle skills and so on. He basically taught Xiao everything he knew. Xiao was young, but he was a very sensible boy. He seemed to know that Jianchen would be leaving soon, so he valued the time he spent with Jianchen very much. He would take everything that Jianchen told him to heart, diligently studying. He also worked very hard on his cultivation. Due to the vast amounts of resources available and because he did not need to comprehend the laws of the world for the lower layers of the chaotic body, Xiao improved by leaps and bounds with every passing day. He had already reached the strength of a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler. The divisions of the innate chaotic body greatly differed from the divisions of the normal chaotic body. The innate chaotic body only had 4 major realms, which were minor achievement, partial achievement, major achievement, and great perfection. It was unlike the chaotic body Jianchen possessed, which required his chaotic Niden to be shattered a total of 18 times and his strength would only increase by several cultivation levels only when each shattering occurred. As a result, it was extremely evident whenever Xiao's strength increased slightly. Jianchen and the heavenly Enchantress would have minor conversations from time to time as well. The topic of the conversations would always be about Xiao, but his relationship with her had taken a slightly better turn as a result. Although the heavenly Enchantress still behaved coldly toward Jianchen, she no longer appeared unapproachable at the very least. The heavenly Enchantress had consumed the 5th grade violet cloud peach and comprehension tea leaves he had given her as well. He could clearly sense that she was even more powerful than before, but due to the fact that she followed a different path of cultivation, Jianchen was unable to tell just what level she had reached unless they fought. Other than that, Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, and Qin were familiar to Jianchen as well, so they obviously received his assistance too. He gifted 5th grade Violet Cloud Peaches and Comprehension Tea Leaves to them, allowing their strength to greatly increase. Their increases of strength did not cause any 7-colored rainbow clouds, but the 3 of them, including Qin, had all become Saint Kings. They also gained the ability to rip open space gates. Normally, it would have been impossible for Qin to become a Saint King, but she had absorbed slightly more energy from the immortal peaches than Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu, which was why she had reached Saint King in the end. Soon after breaking through, Qin bid farewell to Jianchen and the Heavenly Enchantress. She had been thinking about her family and home, so she left the island. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu used the excuse of visiting their junior's home to leave with her. In the end, only Jianchen, the Heavenly Enchantress, and Shangguan Aojian were left on the mountain. The mountain immediately became even more desolate even though many people did not reside on it in the first place. The sun shone brightly and the seas were calm on this particular day. A golden streak of light shot over from the distant horizon, heading directly for 3 Saint Island at an unbelievable speed. As a magical beast, I, the great Nubis, naturally have a weaker soul than humans. Even as a beast of antiquity, there's no changing that fact, which is why I was utterly helpless against that demoness soul attacks, but my strength now is incomparable to the past. I am no longer that puny Class 7 magical beast. I'll definitely trample all over this demoness and pay her back for what happened in the past. Nubis flew through the sky as he evilly smiled. Back when I was only Class 7, that demoness was only a saint ruler as well. Now that I've reached Class 9, equivalent to the saint emperors on the Tianyuan continent, it's impossible for that demoness to increase her strength as quickly as me. She might even still be at the same level as before. Her zither music won't be able to pose any threat to me at all. I wonder what her face will look like when she witnesses my strength. She'll definitely be very shocked. Ha ha ha. Thinking up to there, Nubis could not help but laugh aloud. In his life, there had only been 2 people he had felt fear for. The first one was the old snake from the beast god continent, while the other was obviously the Heavenly Enchantress. Back when he had visited the island for the first time with Jianchen, he had been scared away by the Heavenly Enchantress, not daring to set foot on the island again because the Heavenly Enchantress zither was just too terrifying. It made him feel like his body and soul had almost been taken by the music, leading to him forming an intense fear for the Heavenly Enchantress. But now, with his increase in strength, this fear had vanished. Chapter 1420. The Heavenly Enchantress strength. Nubis did not use a space gate, but he still flew very quickly. He fused with the surrounding space as he tore through the air while radiating a dazzling, golden light. He looked like a comet. He moved extremely quickly and silently toward the island. When Nubis arrived 100 kilometers away from the island, Jianchen and Heavenly Enchantress sensed his arrival. Both of them gazed into the distance. The Heavenly Enchantress' gaze was cold. She maintained a neutral expression with only some surprise flickering through her eyes. Jianchen faintly smiled instead. He glanced at Xiao Bao, who was cultivating in front of him, before standing up and making his way out. With Nubis' speed, he crossed 100 kilometers in a single moment. He appeared as a golden streak of light on the horizon very soon, approaching the island at an unbelievable speed. He soon descended to the island. At this moment, Jianchen took a step and traversed several hundred meters, appearing before Nubis. He examined him closely and said, "Your presence is quite stronger than before. You must have benefited quite a lot from your trip to the beast god continent." Nubis sniggered and proudly said, "Of course. When I, the great Nubis, personally set out, there's nothing that's impossible. This trip to the beast god continent has been extremely significant to me. I feel that my bloodline has become even purer after devouring that old snake's essence. Although there's no obvious mutation yet, I'm one step closer to the next mutation." As soon as he finished speaking, Nubis seemed to realize something. He immediately looked at Jianchen with a strange gaze and asked, "Jianchen, What's so important about Three Saint Island to cause you to stay so long on this tiny island? Has that demoness really caught your eye? Oh yeah, where is that demoness? Nubis looked around and failed to find any traces of the heavenly enchantress. However, he jerked soon after and became filled with shock. He exclaimed, "What have I discovered? A kid who's not even 10 actually has the strength of a saint ruler. Is this real?" Before he could finish speaking, Nubis quickly flew toward the cave where Shangguan Aojian was cultivating as a blur. Although Shangguan Aojian's cave was several kilometers away, hidden by a winding path up the mountain, Nubis was still a saint emperor. There was nothing on the entire island that could be kept hidden from him. Unless someone was far more powerful than him, he would be able to sense them. Jianchen wanted to stop Nubis when he set off to where Shangguan Aojian was, but Jianchen hesitated. He thought about how Shangguan Aojian's identity could not remain hidden forever. In the end, he did not stop Nubis, only followed behind him. Nubis moved very quickly, arriving outside Shangguan Aojian's cave in the blink of an eye. Just when he wanted to enter, a purple figure blocked him in a flash, moving far faster than he did before. The heavenly enchantress in her purple dress and with her zither had suddenly appeared at the entrance of the cave, blocking Nubis' way. "Leave here immediately." The heavenly enchantress coldly ordered Nubis away with her back facing him. Her curvy figure seemed very slender, but as she stood there, it seemed like no one could get past her. At that moment, her body seemed to have become a wall that had locked out the entire world, separating the interior of the cave from the exterior. A gleam of light flashed through Nubis' eyes. Although he could sense that the heavenly enchantress' strength was slightly different than before, he could not see her exact strength. However, with his understanding, even if the heavenly enchantress had increased in strength, the increase would be very limited, not enough to threaten himself. As a result, he did not worry at all and loudly said, "Demoness, looks like your strength has increased by quite a bit from before. The great Nubis, have become slightly careless, which was why you managed to sneak before me. I may have feared you deeply in the past, but you're as weak as an ant to me now. If you're smart, move and don't block the way. I want to see that little guy inside." The heavenly enchantress' gaze immediately grew cold when she heard Nubis refer to her as demoness. A sliver of anger seemed to flicker through her eyes as she coldly responded without even looking back, "Three Saint Island does not welcome you. Leave immediately or..." Before she could finish what she was saying, Nubis interrupted her. He sniggered, "Or what? You're going to attack me mercilessly? Come. I'll take all your attacks. I sure do want to see what you can do." Jian Chen had also arrived by now. He stood in the distance as he watched. He did not go up to interfere and only looked at Nubis in sympathy. The heavenly enchantress had already ingested a 5th-grade violet cloud peach. Even Jian Chen was unsure how powerful she had become, but he was certain that she was far more than what Nubis could handle. "Jian Chen, haven't you held feelings for this demoness for quite some time now? Don't worry, I'll help you with them. I'll capture this demoness right now and get her to accompany you in bed," Nubis loudly informed Jian Chen. He paid no attention to the faint killing intent that had appeared in the heavenly enchantress' eyes. What Nubis said near the end seemed to have crossed the heavenly enchantress' bottom line. Ding! Almost at the same time Nubis had finished speaking, the heavenly enchantress struck a string. There was only a single note, but it seemed like a thunderous explosion when Nubis heard it. His body and soul trembled. Nubis' face drastically changed. He stared at the heavenly enchantress as disbelief flooded his face. He was now a saint emperor, even though his soul could not be compared to the souls of human saint emperors. It was far more powerful, without any doubt, than his soul when he was still at class 7. Yet right now, he had discovered that he still found it very difficult to resist the soul attacks of the heavenly enchantress even with his strengthened soul. "Once I get you, I'd like to see how you play the zither." Nubis made up his mind. Extending a finger, a strand of golden thread shot out with lightning-like speed, weaving into a net that loomed over the heavenly enchantress. The heavenly enchantress' face was icy cold. Her eyes seemed to flicker with darkness, enough to cause people to shiver. With just a single hand, she strummed the strings of her zither. The music she created was extremely pleasant, but it also seemed to be as deep as the sound of war drums. The sound seemed to change. As she struck every note, visible sound waves spread into the surroundings. As soon as Nubis' net came into contact with the sound waves, it met a great resistance, unable to move any further after spreading out. It was even pushed back by the sound waves. Nubis was thrown into absolute shock by that. The current situation was nowhere near the outcome he had expected. He had never thought that he would be at a disadvantage against the heavenly Enchantress. However, before Nubis could react, the heavenly Enchantress playing posture changed. She played 7 strings simultaneously, immediately producing 7 pleasant but deep sounds. A sound wave formed with every string, kicking up ripples in the surrounding space. When Nubis heard the 7 notes, he violently jerked and immediately paled. The 7 notes seemed to explode in his head like thunder. When the 4th note exploded, he could not help but stagger back uncontrollably. The 5th note made Nubis grunt. He became injured and had already staggered several dozen meters back. The 6th note caused a stream of blood to flow from the corner of Nubis' lips and caused him to stagger to several hundred meters away. The 7th note caused Nubis to throw up blood. His body trembled as his eyesight became blurry. He found it rather difficult to stay standing. The heavenly Enchantress' gaze remained icy cold. Nubis had crossed her bottom line, so she clearly did not plan on letting him go so easily. She had already placed a finger on an 8th string and was about to strum it. Jian Chen's face changed. He knew that the heavenly Enchantress was very powerful, but he had never expected her strength to be so great. Nubis suffered a complete defeat with his strength as a Saint Emperor, which took him by complete surprise. Seeing how the heavenly Enchantress still did not plan on letting Nubis go, he immediately cried out, "Stop, don't harm Nubis anymore." Jian Chen arrived before Nubis in a flash and supported him when he almost fell. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.